Good afternoon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being interested in city government. I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the City of Laredo City Council meeting. Today is November the 2nd, 2020, and it's 5:31, I believe, p.m. Yes, 5:31 p.m. We're meeting live web link and also at LaredoTX.swagat.com/forward-live. And also, as you can tell, we're meeting at City Council chambers at 1110 Houston Street, obviously here in Laredo. So the next item is a Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and also in a moment of silence after the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence for any particular intention you all may have. Obviously, please keep in mind the COVID-19 test that we've experienced here and throughout the world, and those people that are still struggling with the illness.
Then we also keep John Orfila and his family in our prayers as well.
Thank you so much. Please be seated. Moving forward, roll call, please.
Mayor Pete Saenz,
Present.
Councilmember Willie Gonzalez Jr., Councilmember Vidal Rodriguez, Councilmember Mercurio Martinez, the Mayor Pro Tem Alberto Torres Jr., Councilmember Norma Nelly Villalma, Councilmember Dr. Marte Martinez,
Here, via Zoom.
Councilmember George J. Alfeld, Councilmember Roberto Bailly.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Moving forward with the minutes, please. That's the approval of the minutes of September the 8th, September the 14th, September 21st, October 5th, and October 19th. What says council, there's a motion that we move on all minute items. Is that correct, Mayor Pro Tem? Is there a second? There's a second by Councilmember Nelly Vilma. A discussion. None heard. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Citizens' comments. We do have some citizens' comments. Ms. Negron.
Yes, Mayor, I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have quite a few. So let me start with the first one. This is Dora Ramirez on item 59G2. It reads, as a licensed chemical dependency counselor in Texas and someone who works in the field of drug prevention in Laredo, I am strongly opposed to having the city of Laredo develop and implement an ordinance that would permit police officers to only cite and release individuals that are caught being in possession of marijuana. I believe this would send the wrong message to young people and adults alike that using marijuana is not as bad as using other illegal drugs. Also, if implemented, this ordinance might encourage more people of all ages to consume marijuana and more motorists to use marijuana while driving. Therefore, I ask you to please vote no to implement a cite and release ordinance in Laredo that allows people to have any amount of marijuana in their possession. In Texas, marijuana is still an illegal drug for people to possess or consume. Please do the right thing and vote no to implementing a cite and release ordinance in Laredo. The next one comes from Dr. Christopher Craddock, and it's on the same item. As a licensed mental health professional and certified prevention specialist, I take exception to the wording in tonight's agenda item 59G2, submitted by Councilmember Alquill, that uses the term victimless misdemeanors. This wording intentionally attempts to minimize the harm and consuming marijuana and alcohol can cause to the person using them and harm that a person under the influence of these drugs could do to others when driving an impaired state. Although we do not know what specific Class B misdemeanors will be included in Laredo's proposed ordinance, we do know that both first offense DWIs and marijuana possession of 2 ounces or less are Class B misdemeanors in Texas. Since it appears the primary focus of this ordinance will be to provide local law enforcement officers with the discretion to cite and release individuals found to be in possession of 2 ounces or less of marijuana, I would like to emphasize that it's illegal for anyone to be in possession of any amount of this drug in Texas. This is because marijuana is an illegal drug in Texas. I am concerned that implementing this type of ordinance will, 1, make it easier to add other illegal drugs to the ordinance in the future, and 2, create potential unfair situations for individuals depending on how lenient the law enforcement officers are that stop them. Councilmember Algeld has been in office for 4 years and November 2020 in his last month in office. Surprisingly, he waited until September 2020 to propose this ordinance. I think this ordinance is a terrible idea that will make the work of many dedicated drug prevention professionals working in our schools and social service agencies much more difficult. I also think it could encourage more people to use marijuana, especially young people. Since a new council member from Algeld's district will soon be taking place, I ask that City Council either 1, vote tonight to end any further discussion of this proposed ordinance, or 2, table discussion on this proposed ordinance until after all newly elected council members officially take office. The next one comes from Elizabeth Alonso Villarreal, and it's on the same item. We write you on behalf of LADD, Laredoans Against Drunk Driving, and the citizens of the city of Laredo, voicing our concerns to the above mentioned proposed ordinance. We must oppose because that includes driving while intoxicated or buzzed, and the use of carrying marijuana no matter what the possession. Below are some reasons why an ordinance must not include the misdemeanors pertaining to driving while intoxicated and drug use. It would encourage drivers to drive thinking they are below the 0.08 BAC. Driving while intoxicated kills and injures innocent lives. The wrong message would be sent out to the community about driving drunk and buzzed driving. In the last 10 years in Webb County alone, 56 people have been killed by a drunk driver. Let's not encourage driving drunk. Implementing a cite and release ordinance could send the wrong message to people in Laredo that drive after drinking alcohol and using an illegal drug like marijuana, thinking they will not face any consequences. Driving under the influence can kill people. We have 2 more. On this one, it comes from John David Delgado, and it's on the item of cite and release as well. I represent various pastors in town as well as the church I pastor. We are against the ordinance for the following reasons. Marijuana is an illegal drug in Texas. The younger that someone starts using a substance like marijuana, the greater the risk of becoming addicted to it. An ounce of marijuana is not a small amount, and it is equivalent to approximately 50 joints. Implementing a cite and release ordinance could send the message to young people in Laredo that being in possession of marijuana is not a significant problem. Implementing a cite and release ordinance could send a message to young people in Laredo that using an illegal drug like marijuana is not as bad as using other illegal drugs like cocaine, heroin, or meth. Implementing a cite and release ordinance could encourage more people of all ages to consume marijuana. Implementing a cite and release ordinance could encourage more motorists to consume marijuana while driving, which could make the roads less safe by increasing the number of people driving under the influence. Implementing a cite and release ordinance could significantly interfere with marijuana prevention efforts currently being provided by local school districts, community-based agencies, and healthcare professionals. Because law enforcement officers would have discretion in deciding whether to cite and release individuals or arrest them, significant bias can take place regarding which individuals are cited and released versus those that are arrested. Miguel Conchas, representing Laredo Chamber of Commerce, and this is on the supplemental agenda item 1A. Dear members of the City Council, this is to express my support for Mayor Sines' request to pause or change action taken previously to move forward on use of public funds to mobilize on the design of the Bruni Plaza Library and Plaza Theater renovation. Although this effort is certainly well-intentioned, we question whether the use of the public funds at this particular time is currently the best option for the economic development of the downtown as a whole. The question that comes to mind is whether the business community of the downtown sector has participated in the decision or has in the minimal been consulted or informed as to how this will lead to an overall plan for improvement of the area as a whole. Given the current situation, when we are experiencing the impact of COVID-19, it seems advisable that we hold off on decisions of this magnitude. I am not advocating that this is an item not worthy of consideration, but simply stressing that there is no need to make a decision on use of public funds in such a hurried manner. Please consider and get additional input from stakeholders, as making improvements on the Plaza Theater will have little to show if its immediate surrounding remains in their current state of deterioration. We have one more, and it's on the same item. This one comes from Armando Cisneros. I am writing to express my full support of item A1 of today's supplemental agenda. This involves a possible veto of a couple of downtown projects. I believe the mayor does not take his veto power lightly, and the proof is in the fact of the seldom exercises this power. Let us remember that the mayor is the only member of the city council who is elected by all Laredoans. This means that he was elected by much greater number of the voters than the rest of his colleagues upon the days. This needs to be respected because his larger constituency is what accounts for the mayor being the only one vested with the power of the veto. In regard of this specific item, the mayor would definitely move ahead with the veto of any plans of the Bruni Plaza Library. The same goes for any plans concerning the old Plaza Theater. The plaza in particular has been several ill-conceived attempts at resurrecting it over the last 20 years or so, and they have all fallen flat. We must learn from past mistakes. Always remember that all funding ultimately comes out of the pockets of our taxpayers, whether it be from the general fund, district priority funds, or from the CDBG block grants. The primary focus on the mayor and this council must be to exercise the most judicious spending of our taxpayers' dollar. I believe that taking a pause on these two projects allows for that to happen. A veto is the most practical and pragmatic approach of the situation given to the pandemic, the political season, which is in full swing, and the rampant homeless problem plaguing our downtown. A veto is most practical at this time. For these reasons, I strongly urge Mayor Sines to act in the better interest of all Laredoans and veto any action taken so far on both projects. Our downtown is ailing. It is in a precarious and ugly stage of its otherwise proud history. This is why more than ever, we must approach such undertakings in measured and careful manner. Thank you. That is it for all the public comments that I have.
Council to introduce items 1 and 2, Mayor.
Second.
Thank you for those comments.
Second.
As presented by Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to approve items 3, 4, 5 through 15, and to waive final reading of ordinance, please.
Second.
Aye. Motion to approve items 16 through 49.
49.
Can we exclude 36 if possible?
Exclude item 21.
Mayor.
Let's see, Dr. Marco Martinez, yes, Dr. go ahead, please.
Just quickly, 36, if we can exclude that, I'd like to talk about that one.
As amended to exclude
21 and
36.
36. The motion is to approve and waive on 16 to 49 with the exception of 21 and 36. That it?
Yes. Second.
Is there anything else staff is asking that we pull out that needs any specific award?
Okay, not heard.
None.
Discussion. Members, vote for the question.
Porque lo que hubiera de los Cowboys.
Yes, I'm heard.
So. Sí, man.
Thank you, sir.
¿Qué pasó, distinguido?
El norteño.
Good evening, Mr. Novosa.
Thank you, Mayor.
Please proceed.
Elena Rosa, the Trent Washington Company. Bueno, I guess Councilor Martinez.
No, that's, but, yeah. No,
And
he,
Robert Bali.
yeah, he had item 36.
Great. I think I came here. A couple of weeks back, we talked briefly about the opportunity for using some idle funds within the Sports Venue Act. So the item that you have before you is an ordinance of the league to allow us to pay off some of the current bonds that are outstanding for the arena or the baseball stadium on the sports venue. The sports venue, as you can see there, has about $17.8 million worth of debt outstanding. And what we're trying to do is pay off the 2014 bond, $9,855,000. So basically, if you read your agenda, you're directed us to proceed to pay off those $9,855,000. That same page shows the gross receipts of $9,023,000 is the estimated amount coming from sales tax for this particular fund. We've had a previous year $9,568,000. So the drop of 560, or 540, it's many due to the COVID. And we suspect the 20 to be a little bit difficult to get into this particular fund. But notwithstanding all that, that red line on the bottom page shows how well you're covering your obligations to the bondholder. And so basically here, if you were to not pay off these bonds in 2014, those bars that go across from Plano there before, you'll see that payments are north of $3 million. As you pay this off, the green line will be your new commitment, your new obligation. And that goes out all the way to 2036. So the red line supports the green line, basically. And then what happens to the year 2021, what is projected. So when you start the year 2021, we believe you're gonna have about 30,027,000 in your savings account, this particular fund. By you adopting this ordinance, you'll be required to pay about, to come up with about 10,000,009 to pay off the amount from the preceding page of 9,000,009, right? So you give us 10,000,009, we buy securities, government securities, US government bonds, put them in an escrow and take care of the old bonds, 2014. So the new net fund balance will be close to $20 million. You will collect, let's say, another 9,023,000, just like you did in 2020. Your payment is going to be only $658 versus the $3,003,000 that you pay, right? So your adjusted revenue, which is basically, again, the 9 million minus the debt service, is 8,000,003. 8,000,003 pays about $4 million, $2 million of operating expenses for both the arena and the baseball stadium, and $2 million that you, from time to time, use to make improvements to those two assets. So if you were to spend those 2 million and 2 is 4 million, that still leaves you about another 4,365,000 that is added to the beginning savings account, meaning that in 2022, you'll end up with about 34 million too. Then the questions come up, can we use, will we have the capacity to do a sports project, sportsplex project, or water park, or economic development, all that other stuff, At the end of the day, what you need to know is that come next year, your savings account will be somewhere around $24 million, even by paying out this much with a lesser annual payment. So if you were to go borrow for the sports complex or the water park, your annual payment on that is about $2.3 million, 25 to 30 years. You add that to the 659, you payment of about $3 million, which is combined, that is, which is a little less than the current payment. The enigma here is not knowing is once you build this sportsplex or water park, you've got to maintain it. So the cost of maintenance is going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue that you really want to be aware of. Having said that, though, if you do a sports complex or a water park, we suggest, as we've always done with many funds, is that you have someone be brought on board to help you develop the kind of facility that you want, so that you don't go into a project, finance the project, and then go out and develop or design it. You want to have someone help you develop the master. That's what we think. That's what we think we should do. Many instances we've been involved where you come up with the money, you maximize whatever capacity you may have to borrow, and then you go to the design, and then you go out for the contract, for the bid, and the bid ends up being over what you have available. And you just got to be aware that there's only so much you can cover. So having said that,
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, go ahead, please.
And forgive me, I was a little distracted here, not only with your comments, but just in general with the sports venue complex. Can someone on staff confirm whether we've gone out for a master plan, or are we doing this thing, a lo Dannenbaum design build?
It's actually part of the thing that we passed, council member. It includes a master plan in it previously.
Mr. Eads?
Okay, hold on.
Concur with that, reserve with that. We are planning, or we have planned to have a master plan, so that would guide us. So, and then it does all the cost modeling for us, the O&M costs, all of it.
Okay, and does that master planning, like we did our comprehensive plan, does that involve reaching out to the public through charrettes or other means to obtain public input?
Yes, there's public input to that master planning, without a doubt. We already know of some sports leagues, large, small, professional, even have approached us, want to be a part of that process, and we make sure that they would be part of that process.
And then, of course, council is, if I recall, and y'all correct me here, but as I recall, we also wanted non-traditional sports activities to be baked into this greater complex as well. So,
Biking.
10Ks, mountain biking, volleyball, all that, like having like this kind of a big outdoor venue. And so I know you mentioned leagues, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but if just to, in case I'm not here to bug you, when I'm not here to bug you from up here, I'll still be bugging you. I just will be bugging you from this perch. I'll just, if you reach out to those different non-traditional sports folks as well. And
Mayor,
thank you.
Yes, go ahead, please. Councilmember Vilma.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Hinojosa for putting this in easy to understand terms. I'm very visual, so this it's a very good way for us to understand and also for our constituents to see. And I want to thank my colleagues for making the decision to pay off the credit card, if we will, everything that we've been owing for the sports venue, for the arena, and for the Unitrade.
With one exception.
With one exception, yes. And so this hopefully will help us to get into the graces of the governor to be able to transition into a 4A, 4B type of taxation that is going to help us to improve the economic development and investments for our city and job training. So I'd like to make a motion to approve as recommended by Mr. Hinojosa on item 21.
There's a motion, a second by Councilmember Mark Martinez, the third. Further discussion? Do we have, does this follow with the legislative agenda? Is this going to carry through the legislative agenda for the 44B or?
We can, yes, sir. Well, the plan is to be able to do both, to be honest. We believe now we built the
So we'll
capacity.
discuss it when Mr. Teco Garcia comes up, or shall we bring it up and discuss it now, or?
On the legislative agenda, our staff from Austin right now, we were hoping to table. It will be at the very next one. And only because of the elections going on in Austin and elsewhere, it would be difficult for them to be on the call today.
Okay.
But that is the plan, is to have that 4A, 4B conversion before the council to see if we can include that, to make sure that we include it for the next legislative session. But we can do both, Mayor. We think we can do what's on the board right now, and then have enough capacity to go out there and do a 4A, 4B conversion if one.
Because if we miss this juncture, we have to wait another 2 years.
Yes, sir.
And then they set us down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yes,
for
sir.
them to include it in the proposed
Legislative agenda.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. If we have a motion, a second, call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign? Not heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Real quick question, City Manager, when it comes down to the sports complex, do you need any action, or is it rolling, or where do we stand on this for the progress?
No action needed, but by you all approving this and moving that forward, we've got enough to work with at this point. We're going to be master planning and perfect beginning to move forward.
I'd like to make a motion, actually, if it's okay.
Yes, sir, please, go ahead.
So, you know, one of the things that we were trying to do is mirror what other municipalities had done. That's a big thing for us. And what in going back and looking at what other cities have done, they've really done a good job of master planning this and then adding as they went. And so to that end, I do think that we need to be cost conscious of what we're doing. And so this area is going to serve as a node of development. It's going to serve as an area that if we invest correctly and we use it as a 4B, we'll be able to develop this area, grow this area commercially and residentially, and it can be a beacon to the area. However, the water park that we wanted to do next to the LEA, I do think that it serves a little bit better purpose if we were to put it close to this amenity. Where it's currently located, I do like it. I do think that it works. But I'm very concerned that if we keep it there, that we won't.
There's a point of order raised by Councilmember Nelly Vilma. The moving of the location is not, or the item is not on the agenda.
Yeah, neither the sports complex, not the water park on the agenda. As far as I can see, we were just talking about the defeasance of the bond monies, so we can place an item on the agenda.
And is that confirmed by council as well?
Yes, Your Honor. I
Okay.
mean, Mayor,
Yeah, thank you very much.
that is correct.
Yeah.
It's not on the item.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you for bringing that up, Doc.
It does.
Mayor,
But we need to move on. Yes, sir.
for the record, I didn't heckle the presenter, not even once.
But the night is young.
Okay, well then, I'd like to put an item on the agenda then, and the item will read to move, please, the water park as part of a master plan and for sports next to the sports park, and that's the item that I want to bring back at the next meeting, please.
I'll get the next meeting. Thank you, Doc. And co-sponsored by whom? By Councilmember Vidal Rodriguez. Okay, moving on to items 50.
I think I have 36, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yes, go ahead, sir, please.
Sure. I just have a question for the chief. This is First Responder Mental Health Program. And since we're on this, I just wanted to question if this is going to be used for the rapid response team that we've been talking about for mental health response, specifically de-escalating situations out in the field.
Mayor, we do have Chief Michael Rodriguez on.
Okay, for that, I think there's a response from Chief Mike Rodriguez. Chief, are you on?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Councilman, Councilwoman. Councilman Martin Martinez, this is, the grant was written for the funds to be used for the peer support program that PD
So
has.
it's for peer support. Okay, got it.
Peer
That's all I
support.
need to know. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Motion.
There's a motion to approve and seconded by Councilmember Mark Martinez III. Discussion, none heard, all in favor? Say aye. Any opposed, same sign. None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 50.
Motion to bring up executive session items 54, 55, and 56.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to bring up those items, and seconded by whom? By Councilmember Gonzalez. A discussion. Not heard, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Not heard, motion carries unanimously.
Motion to
Thank
go
you.
into executive session pursuant to section 551.071, subsection 2, 551.071,
We're gonna do it
subsection 1A, and section 551.087, to include city manager, legal, and any other staff deemed necessary by the city manager.
Okay, there's a motion as presented, seconded by whom? Seconded by Councilmember Vidal Rodriguez. Discussion, none heard, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Same sign, thank you. A motion carried. We'll be in executive session. Good evening, we were in executive session, we're now in open session, and it's 7:44 PM, same day. And it may seem longer, but it's the same day. So no action was taken in executive session. So I'm moving on to item 57.
Motion to recess as the Laredo City Council and convene as the Laredo Mass Transit Board.
There's a motion, a second, as proposed. Discussion, none heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, none heard. Motion carries.
Motion to approve items 57 and 58.
There's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilmember Nelly Vilma. Discussion, none heard. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn as the Laredo Mass Transit Board and reconvene as the Laredo City Council.
There's a motion seconded by Councilmember Nelly Vilma. A discussion. None heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. None heard. Motion carries.
Now motion to bring up item 59C1.
Second.
This motion to bring up 59C1. I think Councilmember Vilma, did you want yours? Okay, is amended? Okay, it's amended. Yeah, okay. Discussion. None heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. Motion carries. Go ahead, please.
Mayor, this is a discussion with possible action on collaborating with the Diocese of Laredo for the construction of a new cemetery and any other matters in the cemetery.
Is there a motion? Is that it?
Well, yeah.
Do you have some data or information?
I have questions too.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yes, that's you, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, hold on.
There's a
You
law,
have the floor, Councilmember.
there's a law in the state of Texas that says that in order to have a cemetery that is not city owned, one must be at least 5 miles on the limit. And so I bring this item because we do have the Catholic cemetery that has been looking for some land to build a new cemetery. I don't know if they have a designated area yet, but they're certainly exploring it. But there's no sense in exploring it if we don't allow them to at least build it within the city limits. And so I brought this item up so that we can make a motion. Here's where I'll have a motion to.
I think there's a comment
ahead
by
and-
someone also. I think someone had signed up. I think it's Mr. Orly Navarro. Shall we hear that?
Yeah, let's hear that
that
first.
comment? Yes, Mr. Navarro, please go ahead.
Did he sign up for the comment or is he gonna? Oh, he signed up.
Mr. Navarro, if you hear us, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, your audio, you need to raise the volume.
Okay.
You're good. Okay, good, thank
I'm
you.
good? Okay.
Yes.
My name is Orlando Navarro for the record. I just would like to say that I'm in support of hoping that the city will consider joining forces with the diocese and allowing to explore the opportunity to possibly be able to find a cemetery for our future, for the future of Laredo. We're limited right now, and if we don't start the process now, who knows where it will go. So I'm in favor in hopes that the city will at least allow, that the council will at least allow for the city manager to discuss the issue and with the diocese. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Navarro.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, go ahead, please.
Mayor,
is there anything,
Oh, okay.
Mr. City Attorney, that, you know, separation church and state that would impede the city's ability to collaborate with the diocese for purposes of a construction of a cemetery?
There is nothing that I'm aware of at this point that would impede that process. It's not a church-based function. It's just a community need service.
So if we were to join forces with the Catholic Church to build this, would, say, Baptists be able to bury their dead there?
Yeah, because the church does not, I think that the Catholic cemetery does not have any religious requirement, do they?
I don't know.
To be able to,
Hold on, yes, Mr. City Manager?
We have Mr. Perez on also representing the diocese, and he wanted to make a comment.
Okay, maybe we should hear from him.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
So unless you want to go first?
Well, I just wanted to add.
Yeah, do you have your mic on?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Well, I know you can hear me here, but
Rudy Gonzalez, go ahead.
I wanted to add to Mr. Mercurio's an amendment to possibly look into the District 1 area. I know we have a lot of land out there. And I'd like to see if we can look at, if all goes good, if we can go into looking into our land over there in District 1, which is big enough and wide enough areas. There's a lot of undeveloped land out there, and that could possibly be a good place for a south cemetery. So that would assist a lot of people from the south as well as from central. And
That's a good suggestion, yeah. Yes, we have Mr. Secretariado Perez, please. Yeah, you're on, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, Mr. Eads, and city staff. I'm the attorney for representing the Diocese of Laredo and also the Calvary Catholic Cemetery. I wasn't sure if there were some questions about the issue here. It's not so much about collaboration, but more than anything is seeing if the city will assist the Diocese of Laredo with respect to securing an ordinance at some point in time to establish the cemetery if and when the site is located. Right now, the diocese is in the process of looking at some sites down in South Laredo to determine whether or not they will be acquiring any property and perhaps use some of that to expand the existing cemetery that we have over here off of Saunders because of the need. And of course, it would serve not only the needs of the Catholic diocese, but also the inhabitants of the city of Laredo.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Can I ask him a question, Mr. Perez, a question?
Sure.
Mr. Perez, so if I understand correctly, then what the diocese is primarily seeking is a change in our ordinance that would allow the in this case the diocese or any other denomination for that matter to be able to purchase private property and construct with their own money and maintain with their own money a private cemetery?
That is correct, Mr. Alcott. Basically, in order for us to establish and operate a cemetery, we would need an ordinance passed by the city of Laredo with a declaration that it does not, or operating the cemetery would not pose a safety or health risk to the inhabitants. So without that ordinance passing at some point in time, we could not operate the cemetery. And so we just want to bring this up to the city to see if we could participate in helping us out and getting them aware of what we're trying to do and make sure that they would be in support of our activities and our proposed purchase of the property down there for this purpose.
So then, my motion would be pursuant to this conversation. Oh, okay, well, I would amend, I'm sorry, I would amend the motion for us to direct staff to bring forward an ordinance, consistent with what, Mr. Perez just stated, that, we modify such that
But they have to locate the property.
Right.
private entity, well, yeah, well, that's, I mean, that's the
It's part of
market,
the motion.
it's part of the motion, yeah, for them to be able to
explore.
all that,
Right.
but for us to modify an ordinance that would allow that to happen.
Right, for allowing them to go and explore areas within the city limits.
Yes.
Because that's the key factor here, within the city limits, because the state statute is that they have to be 5 miles away from any city.
Right.
And so in this case, unless they have the permission of the city. And in this case, we're asking for this city to give permission for them to be within our city limits.
Right.
Yes, and I'll get the
Is my amendment okay?
Your amendment, okay.
Yes,
If I can interject, I think the main issue here is as Mr. Alkel pointed out, is instructing staff to work with the Diocese of Laredo as part of, at
Yeah.
some point in time, securing the ordinance required.
Yeah, we have our city manager, Mr. Yi.
Yes, Mayor. I just wanted to, if possible, to open that allowance so that I could talk even further to see if there's an opportunity, not just for that ordinance to transpire, but even see if there's a possibility that the city can benefit within the cemetery itself as a partner. And if that allowance can be granted, to see if there's if we can come to some sort of agreement.
Wait, but do we really want to be in the cemetery? I mean, we've been losing our
next
ears.
point.
I'd like to make an amendment to,
Yeah, I think when Mr. Yates is saying it, just to explore, not that we're going into it.
Well, Mayor, to be honest, it may actually end up crossing that intersection, because that is where I'm kind of going. Perhaps it might be that we do get out of, quote unquote, the business
Yeah.
by some sort of partnership with the diocese. We just don't know at this point.
But why wouldn't they be able to just run it for profit, or however they need to run it? Why would we want to compete or inject ourselves into that market?
Yeah, and I think your point is, we're exploring.
We're just an exploration.
Just exploring.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
We have Mayor Pro Tem first, and then Dr. Martin Martinez. Go ahead.
So honestly, I think that this is a great issue to explore, but I want to see what our numbers look like at our current cemetery. How much do we spend in manpower? How much do we spend in maintenance? How much are we selling plots for? And is it really, are we at least breaking even? I think that everyone in the city would agree that there is a concern as to where will our next cemetery be? Are we even concerned or looking at a cemetery, right, to address the needs of those deceased and our loved ones that pass on? So the other thing I'd also want for us to research is, this is a private venture, I understand, but whose obligation? I mean, we see across the state that the obligation sometimes mainly lies on the county government for cemeteries, number one. Number two, primarily on the private sector. This is a business of selling plots, and you see this being handled by investors in the private sector more than municipalities. And I think that once we commit, and I think that once we commit to something like this, as much as I think it's a good idea, we would be ending up in the red for operations, because it is a never-ending money pit because of the maintenance, because of the personnel, because of the different requests. And then as a municipality or as a governmental entity, we end up having to also dealing with the obligation of your John Does, your indigents, and we are obligated, once we're in this business, to accept them. When in essence, I believe, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Benavides, I think the county carries that obligation. So I like the idea of exploring this with the diocese as far as looking for a location, maybe having some sort of investment in the sense of getting them going, but after a certain maybe pilot takeoff period, they take over the same way they have their own cemetery right now, and we carry no financial obligation.
Yeah, but I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I thought what Siggy said.
First and then management
No,
will
no,
bring
no.
it
What
back.
all Mr. Perez was saying is, hey, let's get an ordinance that says you can do it.
Yes.
We're not asking, we're not here with our
Okay,
hand
to
out.
authorize them to
Yeah, then they
to
got
do
one
it
of
within the
us.
city
Right.
limits.
If they were smart, they wouldn't want
I
us.
agree. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, Dr. Marta Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just reading the comments down below, and according to Mr. Sneidman, says an ordinance is not necessary, just a zone change for AG if the land is not already zoned AG, agricultural zone.
Okay.
And then I have a comment, but I think maybe Mr. Sneidman can just chime in on this.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Simon. I think it's
Oh, he's doing it again.
Yes, can you hear me?
yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so as far as our local ordinance, the only thing that you need is just the right zone, the ag zone. However, there is state statute that affects when cemeteries can be established, and I'm doing a little bit of research on that right now. But if that's, there may be a statement, I'll be able to check it back to you in just a minute. There might be a requirement that it be outside of municipal boundaries if a city is a certain size. If that is the case, then an ordinance is not necessary because it couldn't occur, a new cemetery couldn't occur within the city boundaries. It'd have to be something they do in the county. Give me another couple of minutes while you discuss, and I'll find that answer for you. Either way, an ordinance isn't required. It's either a zone change, or if it's not allowed by state statute, then
Then an ordinance wouldn't do anything,
an ordinance wouldn't help them, has to be in the county.
because we wouldn't be able to go against state statute.
Texas Banking Commission requires city approval in order for a cemetery.
May I say my statement?
Hold on, Dr. Marta Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, I completely agree that at this point, we have to be very careful of the fact that we have a very big investment in payroll and we've done a lot to our cemetery. That said, I don't think that we need to be in the cemetery business. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Eads, but I think that's what you were alluding to, that in some way, if we would allow management an opportunity to talk to the diocese about potentially leaving the cemetery business, that would be something that I think would be beneficial to us in the long term, because really we would be one of the only, I think we are the only municipality in Texas that is currently in the cemetery business. That's usually a county or diocese activity. And so because of that, the amendment would be that I was wanting to offer is to allow management the opportunity to talk to the diocese about potentially leaving the cemetery business, us as a whole, and transferring that to the diocese for some monetary or whatever management decided to come up with.
That's your motion. Is there a second?
It's an amendment.
Okay.
And beyond that, we had already made this motion to sell the cemetery months and months, about a year and a half ago.
Hold on, Doctor.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Proposed amendment is not accepted.
Not accepted only because we're not there at that moment. At this moment, the motion is to allow the diocese to explore the possibility of getting a cemetery and
Within the city limits.
and within the city limits, because currently they can't, they have to look 5 miles. So we allow this, and then allow them to start looking.
But are you willing to consider an amendment that whether it requires an ordinance, and we're told it doesn't require an ordinance, that it requires a zone change?
The Texas Banking Commission requires city approval. Any nonprofit organizations are exempt from the 5-mile requirement with city approval, but in this case, the diocese.
What about the banking association? What jurisdiction do they have?
It's kind of weird, yeah. Yeah, they have it, yeah.
The Railroad Commission has jurisdiction over oil and gas and nothing to do with railroad.
Yeah.
Okay. Vidal Rodriguez, you recognize?
And real quick, and I agree, it is, if it's a good possibility for, as Councilmember Martinez, Mark Martinez and George and Doc, they're saying for search of new plots and lands for a new cemetery, that'll be great. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, the price for a funeral or burial has doubled within last year to this year. So at this point, I don't feel that it's a great idea, even though we're in the red. But I feel that that service belongs to the city. It's a burden to the city, but it's a burden that we must take on for our citizens, especially the low-level income citizens. They're having a hard time. How many people have we buried this year alone? And plot rates went double. I mean, I have buried a couple of my family members last year and this year, and you could tell right now it's a financial burden just to go up there, and you don't even have competitive rates. They just went on a monopoly and say, you know what, this is going to be, and that's it. It's either you take on that burden, or who knows what you do with your family member. So at this point, before we even decide to do away with the cemetery that we're operating, we have to take into consideration what's going on for the future. Our low-level incomes, our family going to be accessible to for ritual and burial. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Councilmember Gomez. I think that's about it. I think. Go ahead.
Was that it depends on the population, if the city can do it. If the city can do this or not, if there's an exception. So it depends on the population, and I don't know about the banking superstition. I don't know if that banking statute supersedes, or we have to look at whatever Mr. Kirby is looking at. So I don't know if at this point we can make a decision, or we have to make sure.
Well, let me ask you, just broaden your motion to.
It's just a little permission to search within our city limits.
Yeah.
That's all we're giving them, is giving them permission. Yeah.
And to tweak the ordinance if necessary. I mean, I've done a lot of work with Mr. Perez. I'm pretty sure he's researched the law extensively, but defer to him. But to tweak the ordinance to the extent necessary to allow for such an endeavor to occur. You know, I mean,
that's right.
That's okay. So that was amended, and Dr. Marte, did you ask to be recognized? No. No, it's okay.
No, Mayor, I didn't, but I'll talk. I don't mind.
No, it's okay. Yeah, call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not heard. Motion carries. Unanimously. Thank you. Now we are into E1 and 2.
Yeah. 59E. Discussion with possible action to establish campaign reform requirements and thresholds periods for fundraising and limits in contributions, and revise our ethics, lobbying, and relevant ordinances accordingly, and any other matters incident thereto. And I know that this is a big undertaking, and that there's. Can you hear me? Yes. Yes or no? Sorry. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
I know that it is a big undertaking and a complex undertaking, but I'm looking at the ordinance by the city of Austin, and it's basically to try to avoid potential undue influence by individuals or groups making large contributions to the election campaigns of candidates for mayor and city council, and by placing limitations on contributions of money, services, and materials by individuals or groups. The candidates for city office will promote public confidence, which is one of the things that we've been seeing in this campaign cycle again. And so part of what they have in Austin is different thresholds, different time periods. For example, there shouldn't be any fundraising until 1 year before the elections. There should be limitations, for example, for mayor candidacy for $120,000 limits, 80,000 additional for a runoff. Candidates for city council expenditures up to 75,000, and any runoff up to 50,000. And I know it's a very complex matter, but I would like to see if we can entertain having a committee to look at these issues and come back to this council with a thorough study to make sure that we avoid this appearance of impropriety or undue influence, and make sure that our political process, which is the stakeholder of this council, is something that has the stakeholders also involved and have the community input. So my motion is to establish a campaign finance committee, and for each council member to have a representative.
I'll second for discussion, man.
Just second, but then go ahead, sir, please.
You know, I think that this is an issue that we've discussed over and over. And unfortunately, the reality to politics is that it takes money to finance and have a successful campaign. I am no exception, as Councilman Vielma is no exception, and everybody else that's on the ballot right now who has accepted contributions in the amount of $5,000. And we see how even taking contributions from supporters of $5,000, $1,000 still is difficult because everything is very expensive. And in order to finance and have a successful campaign, you do need to be well financed. And setting limitations does hinder those people that have to rely on contributions because they may not have the financial means to give themselves a loan, may not have the financial means to draw from their savings. And I think that something as bringing this kind of reform would limit people that live in my District 4, people that live in District 1, District 2, District 3, the Southern District of District 5, the Western District, Western South portion of District 7 and District 8 from being able to run a successful campaign, or any constituent that wants to run for mayor. So fundraising is very natural and normal in campaigns. I think that we cannot cap any sort of fundraising. Everybody has a different method of running a campaign. There's some people that have annual fundraisers. There's some of those that wait till they fundraise for the re-election. So although I think your item means well, Councilman Vielma, I do believe that it is needed that each candidate raises whatever money they can, because the limitations that those cities have are fundraising limitations, but not so much expenditure limitations. And those people that come from big business, those people that want to run, that are financially stable, can invest more money into their campaign than any other person that unfortunately may not have a professional career or may not have their own business to be able to make those draws of money for a campaign. So I would have to disagree with what is being proposed. I think that having a committee may be a good way of exploring this, but ultimately I think that it will hinder the possibilities of anybody that wants to run for office that cannot finance their own campaign or give themselves a loan.
Mr. Mayor?
And yeah, let me just add a little bit. I think I kind of see where it's heading. Maybe the committee could also explore that if we don't put limits, because I can see that side of that too. Because if you don't have the money to run, chances are you're not going to be somewhat successful. Yeah.
On the road.
So what I'm saying is maybe if there's no cap or a higher cap or whatever, is that maybe the candidate, when an issue comes that is brought by a person that donated to your campaign, the candidate should abstain from voting. So this way, there's that check there too. Yes, they contributed to your campaign, but it's not quid pro quo. And if they do bring an item, you would have to abstain from any action. So that's the other side too. I mean, you can correct it by abstaining.
I get it, Mayor, but quid pro quo, there has to be a promise. And someone can contribute to your campaign and ask you for something in return, and you accept that promise, accepting what you get in return for it to be quid pro quo. Someone that gives you a donation or a contribution because they believe in the leadership you bring, because they believe in your ideas, because they believe in what you do, is not quid pro quo.
No, and that stands to reason. I mean, it depends on the fact, and I'm not saying that there's quid pro quo. Let's say they do donate, say $10,000, and then in 3-4 months they come with an issue expecting you to advocate for them.
Imagine a constituent that buys a $5 steak plate for you, and now they call you for an issue. You can't assist them either because now you have a conflict.
But a $5 deal compared to a $5,000, $10,000 donation, that's a big difference. So anyway, yeah, this is something that the committee could possibly explore. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and remember, it's not so much the quid pro quo that I think the mayor was speaking to, it's the appearance of quid pro quo. And so, for instance, we have La Union, the fire pack doling out, I mean, we've seen record amounts of money being spent in this election in particular. And we saw even in the last election cycle how they doled out money, and lots of it. And I remember Mr. Martinez's predecessor, Mr. Perez. Y'all remember that time he pulled out a 2-page motion on the fire packs contract, and he read it into the record. And he was their broker for trying to get people to, get on the fire pack bandwagon. And, maybe there wasn't a quid pro quo. I don't know. But there certainly was the appearance of quid pro quo. And so, I think that our constituents, not our donors, but the people, the everyday people that we serve, I think they're all getting pretty fed up with that level of donation. So to Austin's point, Austin says, hey, look, we're going to limit this. Okay, leading into the election, we want to clear the air. These elected officials, their judgment is not cluttered with the old Texas maxim for those students of Texas politics, right? Political science, of which I was a major in. As they say, and this is a maxim in Texas. They say you have to dance with the one that brung you, right? That's vernacular for, if your date sends you to the ball, this being the ball, well, you better dance with them when they show up to the party, right? And so if we're trying to come up with mechanisms to distance the decision maker from the would-be donor, these practices that Austin has put into place, where you can't make that donation so contemporaneously with the decision that's being made or with the election that's coming up. One of the things that got Dannenbaum in so much trouble is they were making campaign contributions and they were timing them with the election cycle. They were timing them with decisions that were being made by different people at the on council or at the county or at the MPO. And so, those who don't know their history are condemned to repeat it. And one of the other, like in El Paso, one of the mechanisms they put in place, they said, look, man, if you're going to meet with anybody that has any business with the city, any lobbyist, any contractor, you have to keep a record of it. There has to be, like, they have to register as a lobbyist. Let's say in this case, the fire union, right? They would have to register. Okay, we're a registered. They would have to take these ethics courses. They would not be allowed to just go up to you individually. There would have to be someone from the city taking minutes of the meeting, what was discussed, and that protects council members. That protects the public. That protects these fire packs. What you have right now, frankly, with the, and we'll jump into the fire pack issue in a minute, but you have these guys taking association business leave, paid leave, so that they can interfere with democracy. We're paying them to interfere with democracy instead of the natural evolution of, what you all do, what we do when we run for office, the door to door and the flyers and the mailers and the commercials. They're going door to door under the disguise of, oh, we're firefighters. No, you're not there as a firefighter. You're there as a fire union member. There's a difference. And so, that's meddling with democracy, and that's something that's very sacred. And you need to keep the money at check. And remember this, okay? They were putting lots of pressure on Benjamin Franklin to turn in the final draft of the United States Constitution. They're like, Ben, we need this thing, yeah. And Ben's like, look, I've got the judicial branch, I've got the executive branch, and I've got the legislative branch. I've got that all balanced. But I don't have anything to counter the influence of money. They said, Ben, give us what you got. He goes, here you go. I'll give the Republic about 250 years. After that, the influence of corporate money into the democratic process will be so much so that the Republic will only be a shadow of what it once was. And that, my colleagues, has come to pass. And so
do we want to repeat that history lesson, or do we want to set up some infrastructure?
But the Supreme Court says that that's freedom of speech. Contributions is an exercise of your speech.
And Ben couldn't insulate them either, Mr. Mayor. It's been a failure.
To set that other side. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Vidal.
And if I'm, real quick, and you're talking about labor union, it's a collective of middle class, working Laredoans, looking for an effort.
Our
What
union's
about-
members are rich.
What about wealthy families who donate to this council countless of times? I mean, when I ran 2 years ago, in a span of weeks, thousands and thousands of dollars were just donated to my opponent. I mean, I've seen this council say it for one, if we're gonna single out labor union, which is hundreds of members collectively, middle-class workers, Laredoans, for a better cause, why don't we just single out everybody who's in the wealthy side? I mean, it is what it is. There's no quid pro quo. I mean, it's people believe in an idea.
Level the playing field.
Yeah, but this level playing field should have been put prior to this elections, not right now, trying to make it political.
No, this is
No,
Ese ya pasó todo. Make it for the next round.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But this could have been done 3 months ago, 2 months ago. Knowing that the elections is coming up, you didn't just think about this one day to the next. I mean, come on.
Well, I didn't, but Councilmember Vilma did, and I'm glad she did because it's been in our face.
Yeah, because you already collected.
Perhaps, but
I mean, everybody in this council has collected contributions, and we already know how hard it is and how difficult it is. And so what I'm trying to do based on that experience is to level the playing field. And I think that it's the reverse is correct. Because
But this is not leveling the playing field. The wealthy will have more candidates. The wealthy will have better chances for them funding their own campaign.
Mayor, may I be recognized whenever you have a chance?
We're telling us, the South Laredoans, the West Laredoans, even some of the North Laredoans, you know what? Don't even have a dream to run for office anymore because you're going to be tapped. You
We
cannot
have
sell.
taps.
You cannot do yourself loans that you do. I mean, you can't.
Yes.
yeah, no,
It's
that's
allowed.
all in there.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, dude, I
if
ain't
we
wealthy.
give a
I ain't
chance-
rich. I live on a
Sorry,
day to day.
it's done and
I mean, there's no way.
Okay,
If I
thank
may
you.
just-
Yes, and we have Dr. Marta waiting also.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was saying, I think by leveling the playing field and by putting this out to a committee, it's not like we're making a decision right now. We have to be looking at that, looking at the financial contributions, looking at the period of contributions, looking at the limits, looking at also the ethics, looking at the lobbying part. It's a very comprehensive what do you call it, ordinance, what Austin did, and I'm sure other cities have done. And so what we're trying to do is to insulate those that come after us, because that's what we have right now, the big plot of the Dannenbaum, quote unquote, contribution that got a lot of people into trouble. And we don't want that to happen. If we come here to serve the public, we shouldn't be at risk that, oh, maybe something is tied to something because there was no process to be able to stop that. Hey, that's a lobbyist. I don't want to talk to that person. Hey, stop that. That person has a contract. Sometimes we don't even know. It's not like they come and give you a contribution and you know that they have a contract coming on the next agenda item. It's not like everything comes to us before it comes to the agenda. So I think that if we put this procedure in place, we insulate this council from any impropriety, from any appearance of impropriety or undue influence. And we also level the playing field because a lot of people are not going to be able to, come in and come to the dance, if you will, because they don't have the money, because they're never going to be able to have the money if we're able to be, every year getting more money. So then if I want to run and I see, well, I'm never going to be able to come up against an incumbent, or I'm never going to be able to, raise as much money as so-and-so did, because, that was the peak of that last race, and they spent 100,000, 200,000. Well, I'm going to be disincentivized, disincented to run because it's going to be such an impossibility. But if we put limits and everybody stays on that, then you level the playing field. Everybody's going to have to stick to just what you need. And I mean, we're comparing with Austin. It's a big city compared to Laredo. And if they spend only that, that means there's other ways to do your campaign, more grassroots, more, nowadays with all this electronics, it shouldn't be so much of an expense. But if everybody is running by the same rules, then it's going to be a fair game. And so all I'm asking is to send it to a committee, let them study it, let them come up with some, suggestions. It's not that you're going to vote for or against it right now, but it's about looking into the future and looking how this city can benefit and insulate also, and also bring back that trust that our citizens want, bring back that trust in the system, and that they can see that there is a process, that there is no quid pro quo, that there's no entanglement. And of course, who wants here to have the FBI or to be worried about, the FBI because you took a contribution? I don't want to risk my license. I want a protection. I want a process. I want something that is going to insulate everybody and of course, level the playing field for political representation.
And have some trust.
Dr. Martin Martinez, go ahead, and then the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Now listen, I understand the talk of leveling the playing field, but by not allowing or capping political contributions of the smaller variety, you're actually doing quite the opposite. There are other ways that campaigns get financed. For instance, there are groups that are formed of very wealthy people that give to campaigns without working directly with candidates. But those tend to be things that are done kind of in the background. They happen with mayoral races. They happen with council member races. And they spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on these things. Now, the only mechanism that Joe Blow has is either funding it by themselves or like Beto O'Rourke did, going one at a time with a maximum of $2,700 and being able to raise millions of dollars to be able to fight those big interest companies that can dole out hundreds of thousands of dollars independent from the candidate. If you want to talk about a backdoor quid pro quo, then I would remind everybody that has happened here in the city of Laredo. We have already seen hundreds of thousands of dollars spent for contracts while current contracts are being done. Those individuals that took that money and those candidates that took that money, even though they had nothing to do with it, those individuals, in other words, it was done independently, they had an advantage. They had an unfair advantage that only can be at least countered by that the mechanism that is currently in place, where you talk to your tia, your uncles, your sisters, your mothers, your friends, and you start campaigning and getting money to be able to fight the good fight. Because without it, what you end up with is big campaign donors forming companies independent of candidates and choosing their horse. And that is unfair. And that takes the voice away from the citizens. Whenever somebody invests in a campaign, they're investing in their horse. They're investing in that race. They're taking their money and they're placing it on somebody that they believe in. That is important. That is democracy. And when you take that away from people, you cap their ability to do that, then you give that advantage to the big donor that can make those big investments, 100,000, 200,000, that they don't care because they're multi-millionaires. And it leads to a weaker field and bot candidates.
Mayor, what I was also going to mention is kind of along the same lines as Dr. Martinez. For the public that's watching and for all of us that are here, if you go to page 2 of any campaign finance report in the state of Texas, there is box number 16 that reads, this box is for notice of political contributions accepted or political expenditures made by a political committee to support a candidate or office holder. Then in italics, they put, these expenditures may have been made without the candidate's or office holder's knowledge or consent. What does that tell you? That there is going to be a way to go around whatever reform is going to be proposed by these groups that Dr. Martinez has mentioned can be created so that they can contribute blindly without, quote unquote, the office holder or candidate's consent. And they will run advertisements, they will send mailers, they will do whatever it is that they want, even contract people to go door to door under a PAC name that you will not be able to control. And they will spend $50,000, $70,000, $100,000 because we've seen it before done here in Laredo. And the candidate has an obligation to report it if they have knowledge of it, or an obligation of not reporting it if they had no knowledge of that group or PAC doing this. So do you want it to be less transparent to where they now have their own group doing and reporting after the fact, because they do semi-annual reporting, and how they contribute in kind, whether it's labor, commercials, newspaper ads, whatever it is that they're doing? Or do we want to continue with the transparency that we currently have right now, where we're obligated to report every contribution we get? And number two, I think that what Councilmember Vielma is proposing, again, I think it's a good thing. We can explore this, but I think, and correct me if wrong, Mr. Benavides, I think that changing any ethics or lobbying or doing this reform would fall under the purview of the Ethics Commission by ordinance that we currently have right now.
Well, the ethics, I'm not sure if that would fall into campaign finance, Mr. Valdez, is gonna, I don't think.
So
that
the
would
existing ordinance says that they regulate.
I want to say that they
campaign
do regulate that section, so, but they can come up with their own recommendations also.
Right, because if we count on them, I mean, let's be
Well, it's the
realistic.
same thing.
It's gonna be,
Appoint the people. So we go back to this council appointing and that we individually feel is not capable of doing something. It's the same redundant thing.
Or we could at least send it to the ethics.
Send it to the
committee.
ethics commission. Let's see
Start
what
with
they
that.
come up with. I trust in Sigi as chairperson, in all honesty.
yeah, no,
I trust
he'd
my
be great.
appointee too, Saba Zapata. And let's see what they come up with.
Is there some people that are on there
And
that
bring
are
it
actually
back to
running
council.
for office and that, well, maybe that individual resigned, I'm not sure.
Maybe they're off. And,
Yeah.
and the other thing too, I think that to Councilmember Rodriguez's point, you know, I see the goodwill in this item. Obviously, some of us will no longer be running for office. I think Councilmember Villalba, myself, I think Councilmember Rodriguez, Councilmember Gonzalez, the mayor. So I think that to his point, he's saying, why now? How come we didn't do this 6 months ago so that we would follow those same limitations? We already took contributions. I think that's what you mean, right?
No, I
And
think
now
we
we're
tried-
hindering.
I think we tried before, but it.
Yeah, it didn't, it failed.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the ethics, I think
No,
we
I
wanted to.
actually don't know the contribution item has never come up. This coming up before. Yeah, I asked.
No, I brought forward on 2 different occasions a modification to the ethics ordinance that would prevent us from meeting directly with lobbyists and donors and contractors and set up minutes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it got shut
So I
down.
think we charge the ethics commission, Councilman.
Yeah, that will work.
I'll accept your, I mean, if you
Yeah.
accept my amendment, I'll second my own amendment.
Yeah, and looking at the ordinance that Austin has and any of the issues that I covered there, as I mentioned, having to do with ethics, lobbying, and the campaign finance.
Okay, as amended or whatever.
As amended and amended and amended.
Okay. Call for the question, those in-
It's going out to the ethics committee.
Ethics commission, it comes back to council for a vote.
okay, call for the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed, Hidalgo Rodriguez.
Two opposed.
2 opposed, Dr. Marco Martinez. A motion carries. Next item.
Okay, the next item is 5982, discussion with possible action to consider eliminating the merchant fee for credit card payments for senior citizens on utilities or tax payment services and any other matters incident thereto.
Second.
Thank you. I've been getting a lot of calls from my constituents that they're already retired, that they don't want to be coming all the way to City Hall to be paying the bills, and especially with COVID. So I'm making a motion that we eliminate that merchant fee so that we can facilitate the credit card payments.
I'll second it for discussion there,
What is the financial impact of that?
whoever it is, but I second this.
Seconded by.
I'm wondering what Mr. Eads, I want Mr. Eads to have the floor if possible so that he can explain, I think, for he's going into the money part of it.
Well, Mr. Eads, go ahead and then we'll go to. Dr. Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. And so as y'all can imagine, ask any bank and they'll tell you the merchant fees is a big portion of how they, come back with the fee. This is a pass through to us. So we don't make any money off it. So we're charged, we give that now to the customer. For us, annually, it's about $750,000 that we would be looking at. And I can say if there is going to be some sort of modification to that, we will come back to you with a rate adjustment request because we just had some bonds priced. We just had some bonds, wastewater bonds sold. And that was with the financial plan that we had presented in front of them, which included that 750,000. So now we're saying to these owners of these bonds that it is $750,000 less after we sold these bonds, that would not be in good faith to us. So we would have to make up that shortcoming in that respect. The second point that I will make is that for our seniors, what we do already is we don't provide, we take out the late fees or disconnect fees. We don't charge them that specifically. And then the third thing I want to say is that we can't single out one class. Legally, we can't single out just seniors.
Yeah, can I make a motion then to also bring up item D1, which is relevant, I guess, now with what Mr. Eads is discussing? Kill two birds with one stone.
Second.
D1, yes, there's a motion, a second discussion to bring it up. Not heard, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Not heard, motion carries. Yes, D1 is also on the list.
So, Mayor, what I would say is there are a couple things going at us that is going to be very difficult for us to overcome because we can't single out just one class of ratepayers, so we would have to do for all. If we do for all, it's $750,000. And if we do that, $750,000 would require a rate change on our part to make up for that revenue loss. And so where we understand the council's wishes and want to assist, we can find other ways perhaps that we can assist with how they're making their payments, payment plans, whatever it may be. But when we speak to this individually, that's where it becomes technically more difficult than it may seem.
Mayor,
I wanted to offer Councilmember Vielma an amendment, and I think that the comment you made regarding our seniors and our retired class wanting to make the trip down to the City Hall or City Hall Annex may be because of the worry of COVID during this time.
Correct.
So I'd like to offer an amendment that we continue waiving the fee, the credit card fee, until the expiration of the emergency order that the mayor has signed, that we continue waiving that fee until the order is in effect. And that once that goes away, that we revisit this item so that at least right now we can offer them that comfort and further allow them to not be charged that fee until the emergency order expires.
I'll accept the amendment. And just that's part of,
None of you will accept the second.
who's second?
Can we single out seniors?
No, for everybody, not seniors, for everybody.
Yeah.
We waive it across the board.
But
Until
that's
the
the
order-
case, then what, yeah, the manager's point then is $750,000.
Yeah, but in an annual basis. So if the order is in effect per month, we take it on a month-per-month basis.
But
Do you
can we-
prefer to collect or not collect?
One of the things, Mayor, if
Yeah,
I
how
may,
much more additional
I
revenue
did this
can we
at my
generate?
office, and so we were being charged about 3%, more or less the merchant fee. I was able to find a cheaper rate, and it went down to like 1%. And so I decided, you know what, I'll waive it, because the cost of somebody here in the office getting sick, which is what I'm looking also for our employees, the cost of them getting sick, not being able to come to work and exposing everybody else is more expensive than that 1% that we're gonna have to pay.
And what Councilmember Vielma mentions is also important. I mean, you would think that a financial customer of our magnitude, of $700 million a year would be charged a fee less than 3%. I mean, Councilmember Vielma's law firm, and I'm guessing the amount of money her law firm generates with credit card usage is minute compared to this $700 million corporation. And why are we charged a 3%? And a smaller business like hers is charged at 1%. You would think it'd be reversed. Right? Yeah. The bigger money generator would be charged at 1%, and the smaller business at 3%. Have we negotiated any of these things?
Didn't we do that last year? Didn't we renegotiate that last year?
Ms. Cabello, go ahead, please.
Yes, this is based on volume. There's a large amount of transactions that will occur, and based on those transactions, the fee is charged. There is a negotiation with the corporation.
Mayor, forgive us, I can't hear her.
Much longer. Hello? Can you
Yes,
hear me now?
yes, ma'am, thank you.
Great. This is a negotiated fee. You are correct, council member. That was negotiated last year.
That's right.
Based on volumes and the number of transactions. That's why it is the rate it is. It is a pass-through that is charged to the city.
And so, Mayor, may I be recognized quickly?
Yes, go ahead, please.
So this, just so everybody is kind of aware, because this is a pass-through that was negotiated last year, essentially what would occur is that it would be a double swing for us, right? Because it wouldn't be money that we're, quote unquote, we're not currently making money on this. What would happen is we would have a loss of revenue that we would have to account for both on the utilities department, and that would be the equivalent of having less income coming in this year and potentially into the future. And I know that this is just for right now. I mean, everybody's thinking for during the COVID time, which is a time that everybody's hurting. But nonetheless, it would be a continued investment that we would have to make in the community. So people would have, I mean, council would have to recognize, I think, that we're going to lose anywhere, let's say there's 3 more months of this. You're talking 750 annually. So you're looking at $250,000 or give or take that we would have to look at. If it's 6 months, you're looking at $400,000. If it's so on and so forth. And we don't know how long this is going to go. So I understand that, you know, we're wanting to help people, but at the same time, we have to understand, or everybody has to understand, that we're not currently making any money on this. And that's something that we'll talk about here in a second with what things that are happening in the city. But I want to be, you know, cost conscious, and we have to be careful. We just sold 3 or 4 bonds here recently, and we made this rate appropriate last year. We changed this, we negotiated this on a volume basis because we were actually getting bamboozled 2 years ago. And so we brought this last year and we changed it. So again, just be careful and recognize that this is going to be a loss of revenue. This isn't something that we're going to make less. This is truly, we're going to be giving money away.
If I may, I would like to know, I know that there's a lot of people delinquent. Wouldn't this be an incentive if they're delinquent? How much are we in the red of people that have not been paying their water bill?
Ria? Yeah.
Yeah, so Art, Mr. Garcia, why don't you jump in here and tell us the answer to Councilmember Villalma's question as to the amount of disconnects we still have, what our fiscal, no, the other Art. Karen. So we have 2 Art Garcias now. She had a 50-50 chance.
Utility department.
Yeah, well, they get them. Do you have some general numbers? Ria?
There's a lot of them.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. We are looking at the city manager's office.
Oh, Art's on. Go ahead, Art.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Arturo Garcia, Utilities Director. Currently, delinquent accounts, the total that we have is 2,214,779. The total number of accounts is 7,972. Those are over 30 days.
How much have we recuperated from the original amount, Mr. Garcia?
We have collected since about, let me see, confirm this number. Delinquent accounts. Trying to confirm the numbers here. Okay, we right now have collected, I know in the deferred payment plan, we have total down payments of $249,895. The total amount is $1,018,197 that's been deferred. So we've had 1,845 customers that have gone on a deferred payment plan.
So could we try this at least for 1 quarter? Because we're looking at the second wave of the COVID. We're looking at all these people that are afraid of going to come over here. We were closed for so many months and didn't make it easy for people to make this payment. And so we can at least try, maybe this will be an incentive to be able to pay through a credit card, catch up to date, because we're putting all these obstacles for people to come and pay. I mean, if you add that added fee, just, you know, psychologically, it's like, why am I gonna pay more? Maybe, you know, we're just putting, you know, people more obstacles to come and pay.
Mayor, quick question. If people pay by check, is there a charge?
No.
Okay, so then people can just pay by check and there's no charge, guys.
Who even, I mean, who still uses checks?
I do, sir. I do. Everybody on that council, I'm sure, uses checks still. And so this one time, if you have to pay and you don't want to pay credit card utilization fees, just pay by check. And we handle this problem.
But my argument is, if I don't have money because I was unemployed and I can use a credit card and put it on that credit card, at least I don't have to come and no, they're not gonna disconnect me, but I can make payments on the credit card.
But we have a payment deferment plan where they don't have to they can make payments as they go. We're not going to disconnect anybody. I think we kind of have shown that. If you enter into a payment plan, we're not disconnecting anybody. I mean, I'll be the first to shut that down.
I think what Councilman Villalma is saying is in particular to our retired senior citizens who do not want to make a trip to City Hall, who have been paying electronically, not delinquent, have been paying electronically, they are not delinquent, and they, right now that we've opened the doors to City Hall, now that we have the annex open, now that we no longer have that fee waiver, they're now being charged a fee. They were never delinquent because they were taking advantage of the electronic fee waiver. Now they have to either come in person, mail a check, or continue paying as they have, and now being charged a fee. So there is no incentive for the person that never went delinquent and paid us each and every month, other than, okay, now we're charging you a fee all over again. We don't care if you come to City Hall and expose yourself or expose others. Come pay if you don't want to pay your $2, $3 fee.
Yeah, but can they do an electronic check? I don't know. Is there a fee for an electronic check, guys?
Where you put the routing number? There is a fee because it's considered an e-check. It's considered the EBT.
We get charged by the credit card machine, not by the banks, do we?
Would it be cheaper to send a stamped envelope with a bill? Let them write a check in.
Mayor, it's like 10,000. It's like $100 to send envelopes. It's going to be $750,000 to waive those fees. I think it's definitely cheaper to send envelopes for a check.
Okay, yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mayor. This council in March when COVID hit, we stopped credit card payment, we stopped disconnection. But there is almost, and what happened, almost 10,000 people stopped paying the bills. Other people keep paying it. And also this council also put $4.5 million for COVID relief. So people who have been tough time, who is unemployment, they should be taking advantage of those COVID relief, which we have plenty of money. But I mean, we went 6 months and we just come back to council. Council agreed to start charging those fees. Now we're gonna go back again. We will be in the same boat. I mean, what Mr. Reed says, we lost money. But we have to, all this credit, remember the rate increase we did, we already lost half of the money.
If I may
That means you have to come back and increase the rate again.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
How much funding is left from the COVID relief?
Well, we only spent close to $600,000. We still have to find that.
Okay, let me put it this way. A lot of people have been calling me about the COVID relief where the process to go through it or the procedures for the one that people need to apply for it or get granted. It's too difficult. We had a lot of people that didn't lose their job but got reduced in hours. You can't apply for a COVID relief. I think that's not a category. So this council, maybe instead of omitting those fees, we need to start going back and reviewing the process for that COVID relief fund for the water bill, the utility bill. Because at this point, 600 over a course of 6 months, I mean, who are we actually helping out? I mean, there's a lot of people in need and we could use this type of funding to actually fix that situation.
Okay, so now that he brings up the COVID relief fund, why don't we then start crediting the COVID relief fund for the next couple of months for the fee waivers? So if 100 customers pay with a credit card, we won't charge them the fee. Let's just assume that's $3 a customer. That's, $300. Make a draw from the relief fund to compensate for those fees. Let's also give them that relief through utilizing the COVID relief fund.
Can we do that through the CARES Act?
So that will be for everyone.
For everybody, yes.
That's actually
whoever pays electronically,
CARES Act.
Their fee would be. That's our own fund. So if we're willing to use our own fund. Okay, Listen, Shaw, this makes no sense. We're willing to use our own money to waive 100% of qualifying customers for their bill. Yet we're not willing to give $3 on average or $2 to a customer that has been consistently paying into our utilities fund. That makes no sense. Let's waive the fee and let's continue making draws from the COVID relief fund, which we have millions. What is it? $2 million, $3 million left?
3.9. 3.9.
$4 million. Let's start giving relief to those people that are continuing to pay, and let's give that fee waiver through that fund.
Right. So just to answer that, Mayor, on that question. So yeah, we hadn't heard that it was going to be one or the other. We understood this as on top of what we're doing right now with the COVID relief fund, and then this extra that we just don't have within us. And so if we're taking from
I
one,
think that tying it into the emergency order, let's just use the COVID relief fund. What do you
Yeah,
think,
because
Councilmember?
it is for the same purpose, to
If you-
avoid the public health emergency of having to come over here, get infected, get COVID, go back home, or get our employees infected. So it
Exposed.
goes with the same
if,
public health.
if this
need.
council wants to carve out money from that COVID relief fund that we can set aside for this, better yet, up to a certain
Next
point.
council meeting, can you put an item on my agenda to repurpose or address the whole process of the COVID relief?
I have the item already. Let's do it right now.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, then.
Well, you can
What's the
set aside,
procedure?
I will say
Then we
to
bring up
set
the
aside at
procedure.
least, I don't know, 500,000 or the 750,000 that you're saying this fee will take for these particular fees. I don't think everybody pays with credit card, but let's set that aside just to cover what you have been budgeting for, so that you're not shortfalling, and then the rest,
Right.
as you see fit.
I agree. I think that's a good way.
And we can't recruit through FEMA or something? We're using our money, no, there's nothing.
No, sir. These, again, this is also an enterprise fund too, so that's why we treat it differently. And that's another reason why we come to you this way. We don't say it because we don't care for our community. We say because we have to treat this as a business. And so as a business model, we talk in this way with this fund. It's much different from the general fund, as y'all know. So whatever is passed through with us, we pass it through to our customer. That's the reason why we say it, not because we're mean or we don't
And I
want to
think-
do it.
No,
We
no,
do
I
want to do it.
understand. It's a-
And I
it's a
think that in
merchant
any
fee.
business model, the same way wherein you have businesses transitioning to credit card use, debit card use, they adjusted, they saw the benefit of it, they saw that they would lose customers that wouldn't pay or, no longer carry cash. So I think we think in the same mentality. We have this money put aside. Let's continue encouraging and motivating those people that have not been delinquent to continue to pay online without assessing the fee. And let's use those funds that obviously have not been tapped into to help those people that have been paying and to encourage them to continue paying using a credit card from the comfort of their home.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's your motion.
That's her motion.
yeah, I accept the amendment. Yeah.
That's our motion.
My heart combined.
Yeah.
Point of clarification, when would this start? Because I have to make a water payment.
I just paid $8.
Effective immediately. Or effective as soon as the mayor signs a new order. We're going to incorporate it as part of the emergency. They pay HEB the fee. They don't pay us. So that's their thing. That's their problem. They now can choose to pay from home. If they still want to pay while they do their groceries, they are choosing to pay HEB the $1.
Like I said, my biggest issue again on this was identifying a source of funding. If we found a source of funding by reallocating some of those monies, no harm, no foul.
Wait, are we gonna broaden up the qualifications for?
Yeah.
All right.
So,
The call for the question, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign? Not heard, motion carries unanimously.
What are the qualifications for the utility water relief?
Yeah, Mr. Garcia, can you tell us what the qualifications are for the COVID relief?
For the COVID relief, currently it's unemployment. You have to provide documentation from the Texas Workforce Commission that you're unemployed. That's.
Can we add a reduction in hours? We are hitting the holidays. It doesn't look like COVID is letting up. So might as well, if we can assist with these types of measures, would it be unemployment and reduction in hours? Ask people to qualify.
Mr. Garcia, did you have some recommendations how to cast that net wider? I think there might be some things that you wanted to.
Well,
And
the,
if I may offer an amendment, also people that have been out of work because of COVID illness.
As amended.
Well, I think, you know, that in a nutshell, it's counterproductive that we put this fund aside, yet people do not take advantage of it simply because we're requiring that workforce commission. And I, for instance, a constituent that applied for unemployment, workforce commission denied their unemployment. There's some people that unfortunately don't pay unemployment tax. There's some people that maybe get paid in cash. There's some people that run their own mom and pop shops and have no way of getting a workforce commission letter. And they were simply not allowed to qualify or apply for these funds simply because they were missing that Texas workforce commission letter. So we have to find alternatives to see if they can bring, you know, some sort of employer letter that's signed that we can verify with. There has to be something we can do, increase the marketing.
Reduction now?
In my personal opinion.
And maybe the pay stubs to show.
Something, I mean, I don't know.
Mr. Garcia?
But targeting
Yes.
for those delinquent accounts.
Sorry.
I know that the payment plan is a good way, getting people back on their feet and not disconnecting the service. I think, have we had any disconnections because of COVID right now in this area?
We had about 1,000 disconnection, but 500 was reconnected immediately.
And how about those other 500 people? Are they still without service?
But those are all recent.
So what are we doing for those 500 people that do not have that essential water need? Are we approaching them? Are we asking them, can we help you fill out this form? You probably don't have any service or a computer if you don't have money to pay your water bill. What are we doing to get those people reconnected? Because to me, it's more important to not keep them without the essential basic need. I mean, water is equivalent to air. Water is important. And if we have 500 families out there, that's 500 too many.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have one family disconnected because of COVID. What are we doing? What are we doing as a city? What has been done? What has the utilities department done for these 500 people?
That's an essential and a health concern for all those families.
So, Mr. Garcia, do you want to first talk about casting that net wider and then tell us what we've done so far?
yeah, regarding the delinquent accounts, those that have been disconnected, we are doing research to find out. I know some of these accounts, some people have just unlocked it and are continuing to use the service without us having knowledge of it. We need to go back and check. Others, they maybe have no residents there or there's no activity. As far as the assistance and some of the hardship issues that have been presented to me have been because of medical bills, reduction in hours, illness, or an emergency.
And how are those addressed, Mr. Garcia?
Excuse me?
How are those addressed? The ones you just mentioned, medical bills, reduction of hours.
What I've done on some of those that are having hardship issues,
What is it in your power? What power can you exercise as director if right now the requirement says a TWC letter?
Yes, what I've done on some of those, I've asked that they participate in the payment plan and do not disconnect them if they're having hardship issues. I assist them to try to get them on a payment plan, and some have gone through and done that. And I'm also looking for other revenue sources through community development, which is the rental assistance program that's out there. And also those that are in the county, they have those programs that are available. The only other issue.
How long have these 500 people been without water service?
Probably within, I'll say less than a month and a half.
So let's just say a month. What have we done now? What have we done health-wise? What have we done to bring this up to try and get these people the service that they haven't had for a month?
That right now we're doing ongoing research on those accounts to find out what is.
With all due respect, a month. I mean, what are we doing? It's been a month. No. Well, Mayor, but it's unacceptable. Research. How much research? I mean, you research 100 accounts in 1 week. Have we approached those 100 people? Are we waiting to just 6 months down the line? I mean, what have we done? Do we understand how essential and important water is?
Yes, sir.
I mean, what is being done other than research? Have 100 accounts holders?
Yeah.
No, I am. I'm looking at him. Have 100 people been contacted? Or are we waiting till we finish the research of 500 accounts?
That, or who can tell us modifications to the COVID relief? I mean, modifications should have been said, you know what, it's not working. We have a surplus. People still need the help. We have 500 accounts that are not being paid. They're not getting the services of water. I mean, this should have been done 2-4 weeks ago, so we could modify this. I mean,
instead of helping them and combating homelessness and combating needship, I mean, it seems like I'm not doing anything to help these people.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Mayor Pro Tem, also too, so we had to put a certain, and the council took the decision also to move forward and saying from this point on, we need to get everybody back on. We will assist as much as possible, but at a certain point also, a lot of these individuals have given up just paying outright. And so we'll continue to work with each one of them. What we'd like is further authorization to do more than what we're able to do at this point. And when you ask what the director is able to do, he's only able to do what you have authorized me to do.
Okay.
And all we've been able to get authorized to do was through that. We're asking you right now to say, if you let us cast that net wider, if you're able to give us more discretion,
we'll
be glad to do it.
Council to tell you, cast that net wider. You guys should have come as staff and say, you know what, it's not working.
Or the
we
mayor
still have X amount.
You all could approach them. I mean, it's a
come in
health
and modify
concern.
it so we can help our citizens.
Rudy Gonzalez is waiting also.
Well, my, I don't know if it's relevant, but I do have some people that have reached out to me. I have an elderly man that lives by himself. He's about, I want to say, in his 70s, maybe close to 80. His bill came up to, he lives by himself. This last bill, $1,000 is what he owes in water. That he owes. So he's disconnected right now.
I'd like to offer an amendment, Councilmember Rodriguez, that if before the end of the day tomorrow, that the current disconnected accounts be connected before the end of the day, that staff designate a customer service representative to reach out to each household personally, whether it's a meter connection person or someone to see what the difficulty is, and that they further provide information. And we have to do away with the TWC requirement, that we do away with it, depending on your judgment, Mr. City Manager, and that we supplement that with some other requirement, whether it's proof of hardship through, whether it's food stamps proof or some sort of disability, figure it out. We can have people without water service.
If I may, I'd like to also offer an amendment. I think it's important for us to see if we could use the navigators, because this is the prelude to homelessness. If you can't even pay your water bill, or you're losing out on having to get out of your house for essentials like that, I think maybe our navigators can assist the utilities department to make sure that these people are connected with the case management that they might need to avoid homelessness.
Yes,
If you all-
please.
Yes, if you would allow us to be able to review this and come up with a good procedure, because we also don't want abuse. For those individuals that can pay and will not pay because of whatever we put in place. If you allow us, we'll put it in a Friday packet of what we're wanting to do, and if you don't like it at that point, we'll work with you on a one-to-one.
4 more days of people without water is what you're saying.
No, sir, because people could close one account and they can open up another account under
Under a
another
new
name. So there is abuse, and there has been abuse in some areas, and I don't want to disclose everything publicly, but there's people who do abuse.
Well, I think that you've weeded out those people that can obviously pay, that have come to the table and made payment arrangements. You now have people that haven't had water for a month. There's obviously a hardship or a need there. I mean, by now they would already abused the system and have opened the water bill under somebody else's name, if that's what we're saying. So obviously these people that have been without water for a month have a problem. And what are we doing humanely to get water to these people? And it seems like nothing. Honestly. Seems like we're not doing it. Because you're waiting for council action.
Councilman, we came before city council, and council authorized us to disconnection.
Based on your recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Of
So
abuse.
it's not staff, it's just.
I understand, but we already weeded out the people that are paying. We weeded out the people that have a payment plan. And I didn't know there was people with disconnected accounts. Did you know, Mayor, that there was people with disconnected accounts? I don't think any of us knew.
But the disconnection account is every day. People get disconnected, we do connect that.
But there must be a way for you to see who's been disconnected because of the staggered bills throughout these last 6 months.
Yes.
So how many of those accounts are staggered that can be connected to COVID since that took advantage of this COVID program?
Now, current, the utility relief customers, we have 1,182 customers.
No, that's not the question. The question is, out of the 500 accounts right now that are disconnected, how many of those are not new because of delinquency for a month? How many of those are because they're staggered delinquent bills?
I can't answer that right now. I don't know.
Mayor? Well, out of the 500, how many have come online under a new name? Same address, has
Same
not.
address, exactly.
Yeah, merge them and find out.
Well, they should, part of the month-long research,
and-
at least have that information.
And if we connect because of this emergency delay and then start doing the research or this one was taking advantage of the system, whatever, but at least not leave the people without water. I mean, how are these people, able to continue?
Dr.
That's
Marte,
an
did you have a
essential
comment?
and I
Sorry.
feel concerned, sorry.
Dr. Marte?
Yeah, just quickly, Mayor, I do think that we absolutely can't have anybody without water. And I do think that there's probably some sort of, way of getting around it. But I think ultimately we should have at least a registry of the addresses that are currently disconnected, right? And not by name, but by address, right? And so by having that by address, we should be able to ascertain whether there are homes that are currently not with water. And furthermore, I know how difficult it is. When I try to call my patients, a lot of times their numbers are disconnected. They don't have access to their phone right now because their cell phones are disconnected also because of COVID and because of the funds. And so it is a really difficult time right now to try to get a hold of people. So I think that based on those addresses is the only way that we can figure out if there's water or not.
For the standpoint of the motion, should the motion be, and as an amendment, as soon as possible, but not to exceed maybe another week?
Excuse me, Mayor.
What I'm saying is, can we
Physically,
do
I
it?
think we can't.
Can staff do it within a day?
Mr. Garcia,
As soon as
If it's
feasible.
council directive, find a way to do it, overtime or whatever. I mean,
We'll find a way. The only thing I need to issue a correction. It's been 2 weeks. We started a month ago to issue the notice. That's my mistake. It's been 2 weeks that these 500 customers have been without service.
That's still 2 weeks is too many.
Yes, I agree.
Still too many, and we should have at least access to these addresses. We need to have these addresses. We need to call these customers, and if we can't get a hold of them, we need to send somebody to go talk to them. We have all sorts of available, code, police, fire, whatever it takes to get these people connected. Because imagine being in the middle of a pandemic, and then on top of that, with your family, not having access to all sorts of food and things, and then on top of that, not having water, running water, a toilet.
Parks people to go to those addresses and help them with iPads, fill out those applications. Has anybody reached out to the health department to see if at the very least maybe a person is COVID positive, and that in itself could be a qualifier for the relief program? I mean, there's different ways to address this. We have a database. Simply pick up the phone. Mr. Chamberlain, has X person at X address tested positive? Yes. Attach it and waive the fee. I mean, that's obviously an indicator.
Okay, so let's, so what is the motion again?
It's like 3 pages long.
For tomorrow?
No, 3 pages long, the motion.
No,
The motion was to utilize the COVID relief fund to include the reduction in hours as an identifier instead of just unemployment. And then to also, basically was to connect everybody by the end of the day tomorrow.
Okay, is that still a motion?
That was
That's the
part of,
motion, but they, I also wanted for them to add into the motion other qualifications, not only the hours and reduction, the COVID as well.
Hardship issues.
hardship issues. Okay. And to come up with other ways of facilitating and helping these individuals and negotiate, and also to use navigators to identify.
Or whoever they can send to contact those people.
And minimum that this funding lasts for the next 2 months. We separate it equally for the next 2 months. which is in November and December.
Nobody, you're gonna have money for more months.
Okay, call for the question then. Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Not heard, motion carries. Thank you. And let's go back to, I think it was 60, was it? 50. 50.
Motion to approve item 50. If there's nothing new to report.
I'm sorry, I had called all of my items and then you pulled yours, so I'm missing this one.
Oh,
It's, it's on the supplemental C1. Discussion with possible action to instruct the city manager to eliminate all vehicle parade permits and any other matters incident thereto.
Second.
And Mayor, we've seen a commotion through Facebook about some parade requirements and people thinking that we charge a fee. I know we don't charge a fee, and maybe it was to the huge political parades, which should no longer be a concern. But people that, I mean, as it is because of COVID, they had to cancel their quinceañeras or their big parties. Now they're calling, I mean, I got a lot of calls of concern. How do I go about this and getting a permit? So I think that we're infringing too much on people's liberties, and I think that we should eliminate any of these additional requirements for permits because it just doesn't make sense. It's not necessary.
Okay, we had 2 permits, I think, beyond 20 cars, and then no permit required for the less than 20 cars. So you're saying
Eliminate
all
that.
permits?
Yes, because I don't think it's that many cases where you need that. And as long as they I mean, they're not going to be able to stop the light because they're not going to be escorted. So then they just break off their parade if they have anything bigger than that.
And Mayor Council, Christine Hill, City Manager's Office. I just wanted to make it clear that before, when we had the birthday parades and they were starting off, at that point, they were still not in compliance with law, but we were not enforcing that because they were not a big issue. Then we started to see the hundreds and 150 birthday parades that they would contact our office asking for police assistance. And in addition, we would get the calls from the residents in the neighborhoods who were blocking their driveways. So it started to be an issue that they were reaching out to us for assistance. So that's how we decided to get this permit process so that we could somehow, make a balance for everybody. But we weren't charging, and this is just something to avoid citations and to avoid any traffic issues and for public safety. So this is something that we did because they asked us for it. So we were getting a call at the city manager's office, and PD was getting a call because of the issues that these parades that were getting bigger and bigger kept creating.
But it's very difficult to enforce. Even the Laredo Police Department is asking, try to get rid of that because it's difficult to enforce. We're already taking away their parties. People had planned for this. It's like, I had a constituent last week and telling me I had to cancel the quinceañera, and now you guys want me to cancel even the parade. Come on. So it's just very restrictive.
This was in conjunction with legal and the police department who came up with this process. So if PD doesn't want it and if they don't think that's an issue,
well, this is
something that we did
benefit
the public.
I think, it didn't come to council. As far as I'm concerned, I don't recall it coming to council either, but.
Okay. Actually, I already have a parade. This is actually a parade. This falls under the definition of a parade. So in all honesty, if we didn't do this, then there is a parade process that does require a fee. So this kind of took away that fee, but did allow the city to.
We're from Chief Trevino to see, what their recommendation is.
Chief Rodriguez is on again, sir.
How this evolved from their
Yeah,
request.
Chief Rodriguez, I think, Chief Rodriguez is not available, but Chief Rodriguez is. Chief?
Good evening, Councilman.
Respond. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Chief.
Okay, so far we've had 155 parade inquiries. We've approved there's been 9 approved parade applications, and 2 parade applications are pending approval at traffic safety, which PD will approve. One of the things, I think one of the issues that we're having problems with is the amount of inquiries that we're getting. And then it's actually the people that are calling in for parades that really don't merit a permit. And then the other thing is also the amount of, information that is being fed through social media that gets people very incited, that actually make them call PD and ask us the questions, which is no problem. But one of the things that is happening here is that we're getting parade applications for cars that are maybe 10 or maybe birthday parades. The other things that we're also getting is the school parades. which they already had a route that they would take to get either their breakfast or their lunch. And they're asking for those permits as well. So I think if we can tweak the guidelines that we're going to go by, and I want to say maybe have it where maybe 100 cars. If you're going to have 100 cars, then you need to get a parade permit. Aside from that, I think I'll leave it up to the city manager's office also, because they're also getting the calls. So for us, it's more, if we put a limit to maybe, say you're gonna have a parade that's gonna have 100 cars in it, then we can, issue out a permit, and then we can have traffic control and have guidance from the police department to be able to have that parade.
That'll make sense, because if out of 155 inquiries, only 9 people are able to, go through the process, it just seems to honor us. So if we can make that amendment to the emergency order to only require permits, no fee, of course, clarify that, no fee required, but only if the number of cars exceeds 100.
Okay, I second the amendment, yeah.
Okay.
I also think, and if you could amend your motion to include that we direct management to redefine the message, to clarify, to ensure that we deliver the information correctly and properly, that we are specific, that we are very detailed and keep our message simple to not confuse the public, and point out or single out, if you're having a birthday party parade, you do not, capital DONOT, need a permit. People need to know. I think it was also a communication issue from the city's standpoint. And
but let me ask you, what if it's 100 cars? Beyond 100 cars?
Well, but I think that we need to still, even with this amendment, let the people know that if they have a birthday parade permit and are expecting, look, you can expect 50 cars, and if 120 show up, there's nothing the city's going to be able to do, unfortunately. Because if you are expecting, a cop shows up, and my response as any citizen would be, I'm sorry, I was only expecting 20 people, because only 20 hours a peak, and 150 showed up. What are you going to do? Cite me? When your order says, I expected less than the threshold? It just doesn't seem, anybody can outsmart the system. But I think that ultimately we failed to communicate effectively to the public, and that's why we had this commotion.
And I think we can also add recommendations, because with this lady, for example, that was going to have that quinceañera, I said, well, okay, just tell your party to be every 20 cars, and then it breaks up, and then another 20 cars, and just recommend things that are going to make it easier for traffic flow, right? But not make it so onerous that, or let's say, for example, you didn't get to plan a party with so much time ahead of time, and you didn't get the permit and the response. So people need to have these guidelines as to how to avoid any issues as far as the traffic concerns that we have.
I think it was a well-meant proposal that didn't get through the public properly, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may. Yeah, just to that end, that the traffic laws are still going to be in place. So even without the permit, sometimes a permit may actually help with not having the parade interrupted, because the traffic laws from the PD are still going to be in place if you don't get a permit. So if you're asking to increase it to 100, and if you have a parade of 50 and they're impeding traffic, PD now can go there on their own and try to say, you might be impeding traffic, or someone might make a call to PD, these people are impeding traffic, or it might be a traffic violation of a sort. So the simple fact that we do not require this permit for 20 people or under is not necessarily going to have parade interruption. And then in fact, it could legally increase the interruption depending on the calls that PD gets and how PD enforces those traffic violations.
Do you have a recommendation?
Just so you consider, it's not necessarily that I have a recommendation, it's just that with this particular ordinance that we had, or not the ordinance, but the emergency requirement for the permit, I think that we were probably having fewer interruptions by PD because we were having a controlled traffic environment. So it's up to council to understand that the purpose of this was not to interrupt. The purpose of this was to protect a lawful means of assembly, a lawful means of having a parade. And now we're going to have yet another lawful one, but there may be criminal traffic violation laws that are broken because the permit did not exempt you from that anymore because.
And
you're
that is
doing
a
it on your
great
own.
explanation, Mr. Benavides, but we failed to communicate that effectively to the people.
And so now, without that, the public needs to be aware that legally, there's still penal codes, the traffic laws are in place. So you can assemble, you can have a parade, but you still have those traffic laws in place. And so you may still get calls, you may still get, people saying, do not parade this way.
So is there some recommendation to that effect where as long as you do not obstruct, as long as it's less than so many cars, that maybe they can avoid those traffic violations?
Well, certainly they're going to have to work with PD on those because the traffic laws are in place. I think the permit was working to that, and we were trying to help them with that at their own request. And so the recommendation was the permit, I guess, because you were requesting that. However, it's okay. The public doesn't want that, but the public just needs to be aware. Council needs to be aware that when the public is calling them, that they're still going to be subject to the traffic laws in place, subject to the traffic jam, and so forth.
So then maybe the idea will be to inform the public and say, if you want to have, to avoid this possible, then apply for a permit just so that they can have, they will have an escort or what if they have a permit?
Well, with a permit, the police was aware, right, Mr. Eads?
Yes, and so what was happening is that since police, traffic, everybody was aware, we would already expect to see that when that, officer showed up. What's happening right now is that we're chasing traffic issues. We're getting the calls from homeowners or people that are stuck behind just a car, all these cars that blocking intersections. So, they were late to work, they were whatever it may be, or they're blocking my driveway. I can't even get in my house because they're waiting to start some parade. So when we had these permits, we could at least, by traffic, they were almost sheltered in a way with this permit to say, we understand that you're going to be there. Without it, I think that Mr. Benavides is saying, without this permit is you must know that you are less protected, let's say, because PD is going to show up in response to actions, not in being proactive in there, in knowing that it's going to happen, but in response to calls, in response to traffic issues. So that's I think what we're trying to say here is that the expectation at least is to know that still traffic laws are going to have to be maintained. You can't block intersections regardless if you have a permit or not. You really have to let traffic flow. Emergency vehicles, there are a lot of different pieces that go into this. But we also, as we've talked about this, we also understand that people still want to express themselves, still want to have these events, and we are telling them not to leave their houses. So we get that piece. So we're trying to work with as many people as possible. But we have the reverse effect also when we have 60, 70, 80 cars lined up that don't want to budge for oncoming traffic. So we get those issues. Or the homeowners call and saying, I can't even get into my driveway because I've got these people. So we're trying to marry up all those different requests in one. So if you do move, the chief is already saying 100 cars would be something more workable. It seems more workable to us as well, and we'll definitely work with all those, and we'll message correctly.
Yeah,
we'll get it right from the outset.
The clarification is that because there was no grace period, there was no explanation, and
Sure.
I didn't even know about it until we heard.
There was a grace period and no one knew about it, apparently. And that's why it seemed like, okay, release it, let's get it done Friday, it goes in effect today. What? It caught us all by surprise.
Yeah, so we can try it now with over 100, but with those recommendations to avoid possible traffic violations, avoid blocking this, avoid, try to space out after 20 cars or some other recommendations that can help flow the traffic better through intersections.
And there's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 50, what are the wishes of the council? Anything new to report, Ms. Baeza?
Motion to accept if there's nothing else to report.
Ms. Baeza, could you just acknowledge for the record, please? She's getting in?
She's in.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Veronica Baeza with Internal Audit. Nothing additional to report at this time.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dr. Marta Martinez. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Mercurio Martinez. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 51, please. Call on Mr. Chamberlain and Dr. Trevino.
Chief Hurd, please.
Pro Tem Mayors of the City Council, Richard Chamberlain for the record. I have a brief presentation I will bring up quickly. So I'd like to start off by giving an update on our COVID-19 stats. We do have our recovered and active cases placed on the screen for you. We do have 75,590 total tests that have been performed in the city of Laredo, Webb County. 14. Have 14,849 recovered and 296 active cases as of this moment. As you may see here on the screen, this is a depiction of our daily new confirmed cases in Webb County, our fatalities and dates of death in Webb County, and our total confirmed cases per 100,000 in Webb County. And as you may see here in the top graphic, the blue bar graph, that we do have a yo-yo effect that you are observing of our new cases in Webb County. We are currently trending slightly upward. As you may see here as well for the state of Texas, which has had more than 42,000 confirmed new cases of COVID-19 in the past 7 days when compared to the last council session where we did have 31,000 new COVID-19 cases experienced in that previous 7-day period. So we are seeing an uptick in the state of Texas, and is clearly depicted right here with the increase in the number of new confirmed cases in Texas.
I'm sorry, could you go back to that slide one more time? So let's see, City of Laredo. I mean, we've seen an uptick, have we not? Like, pretty, like.
Well, this is this graphic here is the state of Texas.
All right, where's ours?
So ours right here is, this is our 7-day positivity rate. And as you can see here, we have trended lower over these last couple of weeks. But when in comparison to our incidence rate is going up, because incidence rate is the risk to the community as we are experiencing more new COVID-19 cases than 4 weeks ago.
And I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Go ahead, Councilmember Aldo.
And as I understand it, but we're at a level 4. What did we?
We are at a level 4 still, since we are experiencing more than 250 active cases in the community.
And what has to happen for us to go downgrade?
We have to be below 250 active cases.
Okay. And when was the last time we were there?
In June of this past year.
Okay. All right. Okay. Proceed. Thank you.
And as mentioned here, this is our incidence rate, as we're seeing a slight uptick. It's not an excessive uptick, but from 4 weeks ago to this past week, we are up 50 cases. These are our total numbers across the United States. As you are seeing here, there's more than 9 million total cases with more than 229,000 deaths. And as you can see here, we are also experiencing an uptick in cases across the United States. As just this past Friday, we did report almost 100,000 new COVID-19 cases as reported by Johns Hopkins University. Hospitalization status. Just today, we did report that we do have a 15% hospitalization rate as of yesterday, as data is reported from the prior 24-hour period. But as you can see here from the graphic, of course, Laredo being the red bar at 15%, there are 7 other jurisdictions or TSA regions across the state of Texas that are over 10%. There are, out of the 23, there are 4 of them that are over the 15%, which include Laredo, El Paso, Lubbock, and Amarillo. El Paso, Lubbock, and Amarillo have been in surge capacity for the last 3 weeks.
And based on your analysis, I mean, these cities that are in, below 10%, what are they doing right?
The cities, what are they doing right? Well, as of right now, if I'm not mistaken, out of the 23 TSA regions in the state of Texas, more than half of them are trending upward. So the the hospitalization rate, as I can share here with you, for the top 9, all of them have trended upward in the past 2 weeks since the last time we've had this conversation with council. One of them being increasing 16.8%, and the majority of them at increasing 12%, 10%, 8%. So they're experiencing the same uptick. So it's not necessarily about what they're doing right. It's how we are seeing potentially fatigue across the state of Texas, across the United States set in of our population. But it's imperative that we continue to practice our preventative action.
You mean fatigue as far as taking precautionary measures?
Yes, as social isolation has become something that every family, every individual is battling since we've been socially isolated for months on end.
So let me add just something else. Yeah, the formula is something very different too. We're underserved. So I think the formula is a ratio of
the formula now that is being utilized by the DSHS and TDEM is based on capacity. Prior though, when prior it was based on census, but if we were still using the census formula right now, we would actually be at 21.51%, which is way over the 15%. So the new formula that's been that is being utilized right now is somewhat still helping us keep low when compared to the old.
Is that just a numbers game? I mean,
pretty much. It is based on the calculation, and we also have Dr. Trevino on in case he'd like to chime in.
Because the real numbers that, or I guess the real data that we would like to know is how are we doing as a community in comparison to other communities by, you know, taking precautionary measures and keeping that infection rate low? Like how do we get to, what's the real infection rate?
Well, the real infection rate is going to be based on the prevalence rate, on the positivity rate that we currently have right now, which is 8.39%.
And is that real data, or are we kind of cutting it because?
No, that is real data based on our 7-day week of last week.
And that's combined testing from?
Across the city of Laredo and Webb County.
And that's private entities?
Private entities, our state, ourselves at City of Laredo.
Okay. And what's the number again?
The positivity rate, 8.39%.
I'm sorry?
8.39%.
And how are we faring in comparison to other cities approximately our size?
On positivity rate, we are trending downward, which is something that we do want, but because of more individuals that are having accessibility to testing. And that's something that we have just implemented today, as we had 603 individuals at the 4 different sites across the city of Laredo get tested, which is a great turnout. I appreciate that from the city of Laredo and of course our residents. And we want to see more of that testing being done for us to be able to identify new COVID-19 infections in the community to prevent those potential outbreak situations that can be experienced with an increase of new cases.
And are we going to be able to keep up with that level of testing?
This testing is provided by the Texas Division of Emergency Management, and this is until further request, or as we've requested.
And so then what's the objective? Let's test like crazy, try to test as many people as we can, identify those that are positive, get them isolated.
Have them isolated at home and quarantine those who have had that exposure via contact tracing to prevent further transmission in the community.
And so I guess now testing capacity is now what we had all hoped it was, kind of at the front end of the pandemic.
Yes.
And now we're implementing that. Are you adequately staffed to make all that happen?
Yes. So for the testing that is being conducted at the 4 locations right now in 78040 and 78046 is adequately staffed, and we are looking to request more testing for the rest of the districts in the city of Laredo.
Okay. Yeah. So when are you going to be in, say, the Mines Road neck of the woods?
We are already in the Mines Road. We are in Father Vanderbilt Park.
Okay. And how is this information getting out there?
This information has been shared for the past 2 weeks on our media briefs and also via our social media streams.
Yeah. Any way to get that information into the schools so that, you know, moms and dads know?
Absolutely. We've shared that on our media briefs or on our weekly stakeholders meetings on Wednesdays, of course, with everybody, and then also with our schools that we do weekly on Monday afternoons.
Okay.
And we've also had Texas Division of Emergency Management participate at the school district by providing them this service as well. Further, the school districts are actually going to start implementing their own testing at every campus across their school system
I heard
using the
about that
Bionax
today.
Now system by Abbott.
We have Dr. Trevino.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Trevino, please come forward.
Yes, thank you. And good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, staff. Dr. Victor Trevino, Health Authority, City of Laredo. And as reported earlier today, we have unfortunately lost 357 lives to COVID-19. And we continue giving our condolences to the families. And in regards to hospital update, the hospital rate is at 15%, like Richard said, and the 7-day positivity rate is at 8.39%. We have demobilized the state medical staff at Doctors Hospital. However, LMC has retained some of their state medical staff because they're our first line of defense for the second wave that is surging throughout the country and now is in Texas. Currently, hospitals have only 9 COVID beds, ICU beds in the city for the entire city. As we started discussions on additional tools like surveillance testing, multiplex assay tests, contract tracing logs, etc., we need during this wave that will further reinforce our city's surge plan. Now, in regards to hospitalization rate, as our COVID-19 census goes down, so does the allocation of state medical personnel. And the availability of personnel is what sets the true capacity at the hospitals, not the available beds. So we saw this in the first wave where we had up to 20 beds in the ICU, but only enough staff for 16 beds. So personnel is of utmost importance. And as mentioned, Laredo is a medically underserved area and healthcare professional shortage area. And this is where we see the real effects of this designation. When the hospital expansions are back to normal and the state assistance has left, we just don't have enough medical resources to handle a community our size. This was true 20 years ago, and it's true today. Now, in regards to clinical updates, we're starting to see more and more reinfections and people of all ages with long-term complications after getting COVID-19. So as a medical community, we're entering a new phase of how we educate and medically treat our patient populations. This is alongside our hospitals that continue to prepare and brace for more hospitalizations related to holiday gatherings, respiratory infection, connected to colder weather now, alongside of COVID-19. And for this reason, we have started to order more multiplex assay tests that test both flu and COVID-19 at the same time. This is to avoid unnecessary hospital visits or ER visits and admissions because of the similar symptoms that influenza and COVID share. Now, in regards to the advisory committee that was set up for the understaffed and medical shortage and physician shortage of the area, the creation of the Health Advisory Committee is good, but we have to keep in mind that only if there is follow through. And I know the hospitals have tried this for a couple of times, and I know that since I've been practicing, we have had a good traction over 25 years ago. And in the year 2000, when we met with President Fox, and we reported to the Border Health Committee, Border Affairs Committee of the state of Texas, where we brought up this problem. Regretfully, the members of the council have changed, and priorities have changed. And frankly, the local primary doctors were always able to and willing to handle the increase of patient load. The problem now is that we're seeing an era of more population growth and more reporting and compliance measures associated with each patient, but very little growth on the resource side. So telemedicine does help, but we're greatly behind the curve on meeting the demand for our community this size. And my recommendations at this point would be to make this priority and incorporate this into the city's master plan as a comprehensive review and concrete objectives that need to be reached out in the next couple of years. For example, bringing up the index of the medical underserved, it's parenthesis IMU, or increasing the amount of PCPs for 100,000 population. These are things that we have to do to start getting ahead of the problem that we have here.
Amen, Dr. Trevino. Amen.
Thank you.
Let me bring up the other item on the Health Advisory Committee, in case council has any questions.
Second.
Okay, there's a second, a discussion. Unheard, those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. Yes, regarding the update regarding the creation of a Health Advisory Committee, where are we, Mr. City Secretary? And since we have Dr. Trevino on board, it's a matter of just electing. It's a matter of just electing our representative.
Yes.
Could we put a deadline? We do have this concern about a second wave, and I know it's going to take beyond that, but the sooner we can get the committee in place, the better it'll be for everyone. I know we've been talking about the hospital district, Webb County wide, and I think the committee and I know Dr. Trevino is one of the members. I think we specified, and I think our health department is well in the chief as well. So could I ask council that by week? Okay. So by the next meeting, if you all can appoint someone, I think
it was going by 2 council districts.
2 for 1, right? Yeah.
Yes. 2 and 1, 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. And you would have 1 appointee yourself.
That's fine. Okay then. So by next council meeting, we should have our appointees in place. Okay, so we can take off. Okay, do we have any other questions for the doctor or the health team here, Chief?
I actually do have a quick question, Mayor. So the, I know we're talking about COVID-19 here, and the governor previously had allowed the chlorinated pools to be open for exercise, and I've been getting significant amounts of calls regarding the ability to open at least the pools for aerobic exercises or for lap swimming, which is considered an ultra low risk activity. But I wanted to, I know that we have a small uptick, but I wanted to make a recommendation that we do that to open the pools, or at least some of the pools that are heated right now. And I know there's a funding problem associated with that. And so in North Central Park, I got a call from about 40 swimmers that are willing to pay for the lifeguards to make it net neutral, to add it to their monthly amount that they're charging. But I wanted to get, Dr. Trevino's recommendation regarding chlorinated pools and lap swimming and aerobic exercise in a heated pool.
Just if I may, Your Honor, for Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Dr. Trevino, please hold off. Yes.
And I don't mean to interrupt. Just that the item is not on the agenda. I don't know if he's just asking for something.
It's any matters incident there too, directly related to COVID, sir. And so this is we shut them down because of COVID.
Is that, and you're looking at city attorney, is that related to?
That's fine.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Trevino.
That's fine, Doctor.
It should be that standard word.
Dr. Trevino?
Yes, thank you. As long as there's distancing between the lanes and there's social distancing and there's no conglomeration of people, and those are part of the guidelines and measures that we have for the entire city. So the chlorination of the pool is okay, that's fine, but we also have to comply with the other measures we have instilled. So it would make good sense if we try to respect the distancing and the amount of people that would be in this area.
Okay, then Mayor, as part of this COVID emergency local health, this information, I'd like to make a motion to allow pools to be open, but to follow the social distancing guidelines as directed by Dr. Trevino, and to run that through Dr. Trevino to be open no later than, let's say, 2 weeks from now, if possible.
Okay, there's a motion and a second by Mark Martinez, the third council member, and yes, Mr. City Manager, please.
So no, Mr. Manager, we would have to find the lifeguards, but they would pay for them via monthly. So they get charged monthly for lap swimming, and they want to actually pay for the lifeguards. So we'd be willing to hire them. I think the minimum wage, $12, I think, have them on standby. They're the lap swimmers and the jazzercise or the water aerobics people would cover that cost, at least at North Central Park.
Yes, Mr. City Manager, go ahead.
So do we know which?
Mr. Manager, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir. I apologize.
What pools specifically?
Sorry, Councilmember Doctor, is there specific pools you're identifying so we can get a cost of this?
The heated ones, in North Central Park, and whichever pools are heated. And I don't think that you're going to have the cold pools open right now.
Bartlett is heated. The one in District 4 is heated. The cover on it, right? The dome is heated, and just reminding the council that we were able to balance budget $1 million off the backs of pool system. So I've got to make that a point because we obviously.
I get it, Mr. Manager. That's why I'm trying to create a funding source for the lifeguards. I'm not anticipating that we open everything. It's just really limited hours, and for lap swimmers and for the aerobic exerciser that's happening. That's all. And again, it will be paid for by the swimmers that pay monthly. I think they pay monthly for that.
If we're limited to one pool, so we can at least begin with that.
Can we have Mr. Gomez?
The other pools would have to get organized as well.
Right. Can we have?
Good evening, Mr. Good evening, Council, Mayor, and City Manager. Thank you, JJ Gomez, Parks Director, for the record. Currently, with the staff that we have, we can probably man one pool. That we can probably either North Central Park, the heated pool, or the inner city pool. But if we can limit like Doctor said, with the limit amount of people, we normally have one lifeguard for every 8 swimmers. So if depending on the amount of people we want to put, we want to make sure if we're going to limit them, we got to right now we can possibly for sure open one. The inner city pool, that's the one that has a new dome, and then North Central Park, we can possibly alternate them one day one, one day the other, so that we can have one in the north side, one in the middle side. But at this moment, I recommend we also just do one, but alternate them on different days. That's my recommendation.
Whatever you think is best, Coach. It's just that we want to have lap swimming. I cannot tell you guys enough how many phone calls I got regarding this. And so, and again, the governor said it is a low risk and has had pools open for an extended period of time. So as long as we can do lap swimming 2-3 times per week at North Central Park, I think that's a win for those swimmers.
Doctor, you want them to pay? In other words, they're going to pay like if they're renting the pool. Is that correct? They're going to pay if they're renting the pool.
That's what they told me directly, and I'll give you the information on the group. I think it's like 60 or 80 swimmers that are all combined, that they come in at different times. But yes, they would pay for the, not to rent the pool per se, that we would open the pool for them. They would pay for the staff that's necessary.
JJ, do you have right now lifeguards?
Yes, sir. We have 6 full-time lifeguards and 2 part-time working, Mr. Eads.
And they have to, and they're at the pool, Mr. Eads, just so you know, they're currently at the pool sitting there while we have them. And while the pool is open and people are working, lifeguards have to be there.
Currently, we have the lifeguards doing beautification, they're doing different bicycle, whatever tenants we need them, but we have them on staff, Mr. Eads. There's 8 of them.
I was just worried about the hiring turnaround, but if we've got them on board and we can move them around, and they have to also remember that number of people in the pool system, so is going to be limited, and the spacing, of course, so they'll have to maintain all that.
Right, if so proceeded, we would have to say, okay, we have 8 lifeguards, I'm sorry, we have 4 lifeguards, 8 per person, that's no more than 32 people can be allowed at the time. And my recommendations, like, is make one day, that's the route we're gonna take, one day the inner-city pool and one day the North Central pool, so we can alternate, they can alternate the staff, because we don't have enough to open 2 pools.
Okay, that's fine by me.
I have a question.
Councilmember Vilma?
I support this item because I've gotten a lot of calls as well of people are in teams and want to continue with the conditioning. But I just wanted to find out how long have we been keeping the lifeguards on the payroll, because I thought we had stopped and we were saving in that department.
They switched them to painting and beautification, council member. They're the ones that had been painting all the parks, all the benches and everything that you see beautified. The lifeguards and also the rec center employees have been the ones taking care of that. If you look at all your light posts in Bartlett Park, the bottom of them is real pretty and painted. They did all that. And they also painted all the benches there at Bartlett Park. So they've been working on all that.
So we did have full-time lifeguards. I thought those were sporadic seasonal workers that we had part-time.
Councilwoman, this is Mr. Gomez again. All the seasonal employees were not brought back to work. We had seasonal employees within the month; those were let go, and then we had seasonal employees also were let go. So we had the full-time employees, which we don't have a total of 8 full-time employees on the aquatic system, and those were kept on board. And like Councilman Dr. Marta said, that they've been a tremendous help for us, helping us beautifying parks, all the different areas that we need. The utility players that we're so-called, that they help us doing on stuff with the parks. They're getting ready, whatever we need them. They've been helping us doing things around and projects here with the park. So they're still on staff, but all the seasonal employees, to give you an idea, we normally carry about 45 employees in the aquatics. If it was to be a normal year right now at this moment, we would have 45 employees, and right now we only have 8 employees on the aquatic staff.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a motion, limited to 2 pools. Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to also ask the good doctor, about steak plate sales, because I've been asked about having steak plate sales.
Dr. Trevino?
Motion to approve.
Good evening once again. This is Richard, Health Director for City of Laredo. Steak plate sales or temporary city food licenses are being issued.
They are being issued, so it's okay to have a steak plate sale.
There are limitations, of course. We do want to have less than 10 people. We do want to have individuals.
Less than 10 people operating it or working the event?
Operating the event, yes, sir.
Okay.
Even though it's an outdoor?
Even though that it's an outdoor, we don't want the large congregations of individuals.
Yeah, but 10? I mean, at least 15, because manning the pit, you have different people manning the pit. Only one person is grabbing the food. If you're receiving payment, you can't be next to the food. So that automatically knocks one out. If you're delivering to the cars, you're not going to be next to the guy that's manning the pit. So you're limiting, you're putting a strain on 10 people. If it's 15, it's possible.
And that is something that definitely we can consider with speaking with Dr. Trevino as well and reevaluating.
You could speak to me, which we have experience in doing plate sales. I mean, it's very different knowing what a plate sale is and actually managing one or trying to do one for the people. I mean,
So I think the big concern, from what I understand, is really the gathering of folks before, after, during, right? So I think while you're working the pits and disseminating the food, everything, I think that's all good. I think the big issues come when either you're taking a break or before or after, the congregation of the folks. And that's what we're trying to discourage.
And again, and sorry if I repeat myself, 8 months or 6 months of education of COVID, of how to live with it. I mean, by now people should start understanding that it's not going to go anywhere. We have to modify and we have to be vigilant on, we have to be washing our hands. We have to keep our social distancing. We have to do all of that. But life goes on, and some people actually do it for, I mean, sorry to say, I mean, the COVID funerals have gone up. This is how they managed to pay off their funeral expenses or medical expenses for the COVID. I mean, it's a hard time, and many people were hit. And last I knew, I think they were denying some plate sales. They weren't letting them out. I mean, that's the truth. That's why I think Councilmember Martinez came up with this item where people were not given that access or that opportunity to host a plate sale in order for them to reach the means to bury their loved ones.
That's exactly right.
So can you consider 15?
We can consider 15.
All right.
And along the same lines, garage sales, vendor permits, etc.
Directly Health does not issue those permits, but also we do want to be very mindful of being exposed to anybody at their homes who should not be, of course, participating in a garage sale. But as part of the health standpoint, we would definitely want to be able to drop by and inspect as we can at the drive-through plate sales, and at the homes. I'm not 100% sure on an answer if there's inspections that do go on at home to maintain the social distancing and the PPE usage.
How would you treat a garage sale any differently from let's say a store?
Yeah, because they're arguably safer because they're outdoors.
You know, any retail store. I mean, you walk into a retail store and they sell articles.
Outdoors is safer with using PPE as well.
So can we allow garage sales so long as they're outdoors?
If that is
then we wouldn't call them garage sales anymore, right?
Well, it's
yard sales. Yard sales. And if that is the direction that council would like to go in,
then into the yard.
Can you please explore that and maybe possibly open up for issuing out permits for people that want to do a yard sale?
Absolutely, we'll work with building on that.
Thank you.
Very much. So we have any other questions for the health team?
You want to make a motion? Motion to allow garage sales or yard sales.
And plate sales with 15.
And plate sales of 15.
Second.
There's a motion, a second discussion. None heard, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor, I just have a question or comment regarding these formulas as far as how many hospitals and how our ratios are per capita, I guess. Can we have this, and I haven't looked at the legislative session agenda items, but I think this is one of the data that we need to present to Austin to see if we can seek more monies for the much needed hospital as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I bring up my supplemental agenda item? Yeah, we need a little time to discuss this and explore.
Mayor, move up supplemental agenda item.
Okay, there's a motion, a second on the supplemental agenda, A1.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, can you add my item, please? Would you mind adding F1 and 2 just quickly, if please?
Okay, after mine, okay, sure. Yes, amended, is that okay? Yes, amended, a discussion, none heard, those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign, none heard, motion carries. Yeah, this is agenda item A1, and that's a discussion of possible action as to whether to exercise my veto to pause or change the previous action of moving forward with the architects and design of the Bruni Plaza Children's Library and Plaza Theater renovation in light of, and of course I mentioned, the severity of the homeless people, whether the use of such funds are currently the best use alternative for economic development for the downtown. The downtown, as we know, is dead. And third, whether we should pause on any decisions on these matters until such time that the respective city council district elections are determined, and of course any other matters incident there too. Yeah, let me just, and it's not that I'm opposed, because I'm not opposed to the Bruni Plaza library project or the Plaza Theater. what I want, these items kind of went hurriedly twice before. And I think the community merits some discussion, and I've had some discussions preliminarily with some community members. And I think it merits to know the implications of this agenda item on these things. Any improvement made in the downtown area, as far as I'm concerned, and others are subject to this homeless population. And unfortunately, it's a negative impact. Whatever we do, whatever investment we do, we have to deal with the homeless population. I visited with the Salvation Army, Captain Calaveras, and I think Councilmember Mark Martinez also, I think, visited with him. You went by. Yeah, and they're saying, look, we want to help. We've got some property here, and I think they've got 4 lots, and it's fenced in. And they're saying we're willing to partner up with the city to help out with the homeless population. Currently, the homeless are not necessarily making full use of the Salvation Army facility there because they don't want to follow the rules, and the rules are is that if you want to go in, you have to wear a mask and you have to shower. So what they're doing is picking up their food items, and they eat them outside, and they leave. I'm also told that Bethany House, I think, is also willing to partner up with the city to deal with the homeless population in the downtown area. And that's something that I think the management has received a letter of interest. So there's some positive feedback from the community saying we'll help you with the homeless situation, but we need to explore that. We need time. I also want to be very, very clear with the community that these funds that we're using are the funds from the Civic Center sale that when we sold to LISD, and once we use these funds, unless there's a separate revenue source, we have to think of a conference center. And I don't know whether council has given up on a conference center for our city. I personally feel there's a need for it. I realize COVID has paralyzed us all. I'm not saying it's now, but if we expend these funds, we would have to go out for a bond or some other revenue source. And I want the community to understand that. And I think the last time we had a referendum, the community or the people voted not to have it in the downtown area, this conference center. And so that begs the question, where would it be located? And this is something where we need input for the community. And that's if we're still wanting this conference center. So I think we need to take more time. I'm not saying that we should do away with these projects, but just give us a little more time to debate it, for us to deliberate, and to invite the public to join us. I know the chamber is very much interested. We need to hear from other business community members, the downtown merchants. Maybe Councilmember Bali has visited with them, but I hear that they also want to give input as to how best to proceed from an economic development perspective to revive the downtown. Will these monies applied the way we thought previously? Is that we're gaining the most bang for our buck? In other words, is that the best economic development that we have for the downtown area? Other people have suggested that maybe we should give loans to the small businesses or a grant. These people need to revive their businesses. Can we utilize some of these funds for that? Can we utilize some of these funds for the homeless? I know through the CARES Act, some funds were allocated for that, and I would like to hear from management as to what funds are available. I know community development has some funds, and if we do proceed with these projects, I would want to see, at least at the very minimum, that we have a parallel plan to deal with the homeless people. Because whatever we do in the downtown, it's going to be impacted. We all know that. We see it. And that's basically my concerns. We need time to kind of park it and get more input because we're using funds that presumably could be used for a conference center. But anyway, I mean,
May I be heard?
I just want more debate on this. Just go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I echo your sentiments. I was just reading an article in Laredos of the 6 candidates running for that district. 5 of them have homelessness as a key issue in their campaign based on all the block walking that apparently they've been doing. And I know we have our corporate or associate citizens, Alpha, they went to great efforts to relocate their offices to downtown. And I mean, they speak of nightmares of when they pull into their office every morning. Pre-COVID, I went there to give a presentation on some issues with the traffic, and I'm rolling up, and there's a fella relieving himself next to Mr. Marin's vehicle. I mean, it's in your face, undoubtedly a problem. And so when you talk about downtown revitalization, it's not going to take place until we deal with the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is that Bethany House takes their charity, their good intentions, and paves the Laredo streets with pee and poop. And until we at some point figure out a humane situation, it's going to just be more of the same. And also, I mean, the fact that the city spends more on cats and dogs than it does on its homeless population, and not that that's not a good cause, it's a plenty good cause, but the fact that we don't address our homelessness the way we should, I think is a testament to our collective failure as much as the council member from the district, but I think we all share in that failure, frankly. Now, I know we give lots of deference to the council member of the district, but let's not fool ourselves. The downtown belongs to the whole city, just the way the airport does, just the way the port belongs to the entirety of the city. And so I don't think we can turn our backs on the homelessness. I think the pandemic just really revealed our vulnerabilities, and what we have right now with the library, it's basically a homeless camp. And the reason it's a homeless camp, we talked about an outdoor campus where there would be bathrooms and there would be outdoor showers and there would be places to do laundry and places to chill and not be, messed with. We talked about an outdoor campus, and guess what? They have their own outdoor campus. It's this location, and it would not cost much. It sounds like the folks at Salvation Army are ready to partner with us. It sounds like the Bethany House folks are ready to partner with us. We'd be fools to not repurpose some of those monies so that we can really address that. Because let's be honest. I mean, even as near and dear as the Plaza Theater is to so many of us, now is not the time to be repurposing the Plaza Theater. I mean, theaters are not the place to be right now. Just like commercial retail is not the thing to be investing in, movie theaters is not the thing to be investing in. And so, children's museums, as warm and fuzzy as we get, when we think of them or having gone to one, I mean, how plausible is that? I mean, we're hearing 2022, for this virus to kind of run its course. I mean, is that, Mr. Chamberlain, is that about right? 2022, by the time this herd immunity is built up and I mean, I guess we can be bullish, right? Like Dr. Martinez, and build it now. Let's do it now in anticipation for the great reopening of everything. Water parks now. But I mean, to me, we don't have that luxury of betting the taxpayers' money and being wild and reckless. I think
I'm sorry, please don't call me wild and reckless, sir. I don't appreciate that.
Be conservative about the actions that we take. And so as it relates to the conference center, I mean, the taxpayers didn't just vote no conference center downtown. I mean, they pretty much voted no conference center. And so I do see us having to rethink about some sort of outdoor, some sort of open air or high ventilation, safe distance type facility down the road at some point in time. But again, I mean, I think now's a good time to take those monies and park them to the side, or perhaps, I mean, if we're all kind of on the edge of our seats wondering what's going to happen to the outlet malls and their ultimate collapse as the mall has collapsed, as so many other commercial centers have collapsed, why not now take some seed money, collaborate with the county for a hospital district, and especially in an area of town that's so underserved with access to healthcare, why not take those monies and use them to be able to create a satellite health department, or do something that's going to lift this area up and out of this very desperate scenario of poverty and uncleanliness, as much as it is to the homelessness, but also to those elderly populations and poor populations that are in and around the downtown. I just think, I support your agenda item. I think we would be well served to do something different, something creative, something consistent with the comp plan than more water museums. Let's do another, I forget the name of the architect. I think it's the same architects, right? The ones that did the water museum. I could be wrong on that.
Yes, you're right.
It's the same ones, right? Like, really? Okay, let's do a children's museum. Let's do another, white elephant road to nowhere project that nobody's going to go attend. I mean, when there's these desperate need for treating people humanely. I mean, in que cabeza cabe, we're going to build this out when there's such a desperate need for us to really be, humane with the way we spend this city's money.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir, please, Doctor, go ahead.
Thank you. So a couple things here. First, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Houston, everybody is trying very hard to deal with this population, and no one has been able to do it successfully. Yet those cities haven't stopped investing in downtown until that population issue is resolved. Okay, not one, because that's an extremely myopic perspective. Okay, until there's not a single homeless person downtown, we are going to then invest in downtown. It makes no sense. It is not bullish to start planning for the future of downtown. Council has continued to make investments downtown, and we will continue to make investments downtown because we all know what it means. A vibrant downtown is a very healthy thing for the city of Laredo. Investments that we make downtown, they don't just help that area. It helps the city as a whole. As we're able to invest downtown, we're able to grow the amount of sales taxes and ad valorem taxes in a region that has been for many years a part of the city that continues to drag, if you will, in many ways, the city down. Because we have to invest and we have to put into there. There's low income homes there. There's low income people there that need jobs. This is a region that's in desperate need of a capital investment, which is why it's so important to invest in this region. It is not bullish by any way, by any stretch of the imagination to start planning, especially in light of the fact that what we're trying to do right now has no cost associated with it. This is a continued zero cost right now as we start to negotiate and go out and talk to those stakeholders to see what it would look like, what this would do, how it would look. Additionally, I haven't given up on the fact that the Plaza Theater can be a small theater for our city, things that we don't have right now. Find me a place where we can have a ballet recital for the city. Find me a place where we can have a piano recital.
Laredo College, TAMU, I mean, the list is long.
For the city. Find me a place downtown, the way the Civic Center was, where we can have this type of event that can drive foot traffic to the area, where we can have small music groups show up. We can have quality concerts come in, small venue concerts. There is a unlimited potential to what we can do if we plan this correctly. And this is how we'll help. This is one of the ways that we're going to help that whole area. If we're trying to say that we're abandoning downtown, then don't build another road. Don't put up another light. And for those people that say that we absolutely need to give loans, or we should give loans to businesses, I agree. But that's why a TERS was developed in this area. A TERS was developed for this specific purpose of incentivizing those businesses that are wanting to locate in the area, repurpose their properties, invest in their properties, and we can work with each one of those businesses individually. There are multiple agencies and multiple ways that we can help current business owners and business owners that are trying to relocate. One of the biggest agenda or things that I see is the revitalization of downtown. Whenever anybody's running for council, everybody says it. And we have to revitalize downtown. It is absolutely important. It is the jewel and the heart and soul. But when it actually comes to doing it, everybody gets scared. It's like you're concerned or scared about your success. And it may be because many council members are risk averse because they've never been real business owners. They've never taken the risk of actually investing $1 million into something of their own pocket. They have never done that. And so they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to think like that. They don't know how to think like business owners. They only know how to think like people that spend $20, $30 at a time, or, I have a credit card and I pay my credit card debt. That's not what business owners do. And we have to think as a business owner would. If we're going to elevate the quality of downtown, we must invest in that downtown. And it is not risk aversive. We have to risk in order to succeed.
So what do you do with the homeless folks?
I'm sorry, I'm doing the head thing. So what we do with homeless folks is what other communities have done. At the same time as we're investing downtown, we continue to work on that program, on that problem. It's not, let's fix one and then let's fix the other. We have to tackle multiple things all at once. We're not going to say, oh guys, you know what? We're not going to work on our roads this year because we have to work on our water. Or we're not going to work on our streetlights because you know what? We have to work on our stop signs. We work on everything concurrently. That's what we do. We're a city of Laredo. We can handle it, but we must invest in downtown. This is an incredible project and an incredible opportunity for our city. And there is zero cost associated with it right now. Zero. All we're doing is starting to negotiate what this would look like. And if we don't like it later on, then we don't like it. No contracts are awarded. But right now is the time to start planning on our future. What is the city of Laredo's downtown going to look like? Decisions you make right now won't be right now. They won't come to fruition right now. This will pay dividends a decade from now, 15 years from now. And you must be brave in your decisions.
Yeah, anyone else?
Yes, if I may.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I have sorry. Somebody
Yes,
else?
Councilmember Bellman.
Okay. I have worked downtown for 18 years, and I see the continued growth of this problem with the homeless population. And even recently, a couple of weeks ago, we went to give out food to the homeless, and this area in particular, the homeless that are hanging out at the Bruni Plaza are the people that are not being accepted by Bethany House, are the people that you could tell right away they're very high. They're all, pretty much drugged up. From what I gathered from some of the police officers, you have, this, I don't know, drugs, sexual activity, everything going on there. There's, a lot of activities that it's not going to be conducive to somebody, as a mom, I wouldn't bring my kid to that area if all of that it's adjacent. So anything that we're going to do to try to revitalize downtown, it's going to be hindered by not taking care of the problem that we have. And as a business owner downtown, I've suffered that both at the building I have in front of the federal courthouse and both at the building that I have right now, pieces, people passing out, all drugged up. And that's not a very attractive place to try to bring somebody for a theatrical event or to bring somebody for the day out to come to the library. So I think that any capital investment that we make, not with our money, but with the taxpayers' money, especially that we know it's the Civic Center money, and we wanted to replace it with something that our people are going to be able to use in the future, be it for conventions, for job trainings or groups or whatever it is that they need for social gatherings. We need to make a data-driven decision. And as any business owner knows, it's based on demand. And I think that study needs to be done. Where is the demand? Where do we think that the people will go? Not that we want to put all of our eggs in one basket, which is downtown. And I think it will be, very short-sighted to think that at this time we need a theater when we have the social distancing requirements. I think that looking at numbers and maybe getting that data even from the water museum that we have right now, how many people actually go to that very nice kid-friendly area of the water museum? Is it even utilized or is it underutilized? And that's some of the data-driven decisions that we need to make for this other. I would imagine maybe the idea that Councilmember Valley has is kind of like the Ducey of San Antonio, which is awesome, but we need to see that it's going to be conducive and that people are actually going to come downtown. We have even the outlets where people are not coming downtown. So you have the traffic situation, you have the homelessness situation. We do need a hospital. I do agree with that. I think that if we could use this for seed money for a hospital or a clinic that we're highly underserved and we're never going to get out of these numbers with COVID or any other medical issue because of our lack and underserving in that area. And I don't think that we can, the people do want a convention center. What they voted against was having it downtown, or they voted against having to pay extra hotel tax. So, but they do, as long as the people have asked, is they do want a replacement to what they used to have with the Civic Center. They do want a convention center. And I think that there's no prejudice in stopping, parking these projects, especially right now. It will be very, it's not a very business-savvy decision to be rushed in the middle of COVID for something that we know it's not going to be utilized right now. We know that it's not going to be, especially because of social distancing and because of the problems around the areas. We can't risk the taxpayers' dollars because it's not our money to be taking this risk. As business owners, we need to look at the data, at the trends, at the demand, at the return on investment. We cannot afford to put all our eggs in one basket, which is downtown. I mean, we already invested a lot of money in the outlets. Where has that taken us? Where is the economic development in that? Where is the return? Where are the businesses and all the people that are going to come downtown? I don't see them. We cannot do the same for this theater or the library. And what about the rest of the city? We cannot put all our eggs in downtown.
Yes, Councilmember Valley, go ahead, sir.
Yes, Mayor. These two items are two items that would be a great improvement to our downtown. We haven't stopped investing in the city. We're building tennis courts in North Laredo at TAMU. We're building baseball fields in South Laredo. We're making improvements all over the city. Water park in North Laredo. Nothing is stopping. And we're not, I think that some of the things that council members are saying and the mayor's saying is that this is going to happen fast. Nothing says it has to happen fast, especially given the fact that we're in a pandemic. You have to look at where we're at with this project. The only thing that we did with this project was we evaluated the architects. We haven't even negotiated with the architects yet. We haven't even done that. And that would still take, we're talking about that coming at least a couple of months down the road. And at that point, it's going to take the architects several months, probably at least 6 months to come back with the plan. So we're talking at that point about almost the end of 2021. And then you have to bid out construction. So we're talking bidding out construction. And then so we're talking 2022 to be awarding construction contracts. And we're talking about construction in 2022 to be finished sometime maybe mid-year, late year, 2023. That's what we're really talking, or 2022, 2023. That's what we're talking about. So nothing is being rushed. This whole process is a process and takes steps. I'm going to tell you that the project with the Plaza Theater is probably the most beloved project in Laredo.
Right.
It's the most beloved project in Laredo. And the fact that council members are talking about the children of Laredo having a library of their own in West Laredo, it just speaks of prior councils that have taken away amenities from downtown, put those same amenities in other parts of the community. And that's what we're doing here. Our kids don't have a library in West Laredo. We have no library in West Laredo. There's great libraries in other parts of town. Our kids deserve a library. And the additional amenities are there to attract kids from other parts of the community. And to answer Councilmember Altgeld's question, people drive to San Antonio. They drive to the Valley. They drive to Austin to have their kids go to nice, interactive museums for their children, because parents follow their kids. So if we do it right, we'll have a nice.
There's a motion to extend to 11, seconded by Councilmember Mark Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So we do this right, and we're going to have a very nice facility that children throughout the community are going to enjoy. And I think that it's sending a bad message that we don't want the children to have a library. The other bad message that's being sent is by, especially the way this item is worded and the dialogue that I'm hearing from two council members and the mayor that there's a homeless problem, and yet neither of the three of you put an item on the agenda to address the homeless problem, and you haven't put an item on here in 6 years, 4 years, however long you've been on council. And so I know that things have taken a turn during the pandemic. Things have gotten worse, and yes, downtown receives the homeless people from other parts of the community, as do the underpasses and other parts of other districts to the north. There's homeless people in the south. There's homeless people all over right now. I realize that they're congregating around the library, but part of the reason that for this project is to improve that area, to fence up that area, to make that a kid-friendly area, to make it a safe area, and to make an improvement to the area, which I can tell you that has the support of the people at Mora Optical across the street, which has the support of Attorney Chito Davila, who's across the street, and Attorney Joe Rubio, who's across the street. They've told me that they support a nice library in the area, and those are businesses that are right there, and they're all supporting it. And I'll tell you who else supports it is the children of District 8 support this, and our Plaza Theater will bring families from all over the community. So if you all want to continue to take downtown's money, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to take downtown's money, the Civic Center money, and move it to another part of the community, I guess the north side again. then let that be on your conscience, and stop talking about trying to help downtown, because you're not doing it. And I'm going to tell you what we've done on city council since I've been here. We've added housing for homeless people. This weekend we just opened housing across the street from City Hall. I didn't see any of the people who are speaking out today at that event. None of you. None of the three of you were there. 12 new houses. We're redoing the Southern Hotel. That's going to be a great project for families in downtown Laredo. We added housing on 8 housing units on Juarez Street. We added housing units on Hidalgo Street. We added housing units on Washington Street. So we continue to add housing, and we have a long way to go. And there's much more to do to address the homeless population and the homeless issue. And I support any efforts to do that, and I'll support anyone who has a good item to address it. But stopping these projects is not the way to do it.
Thank you, Councilman. We have Councilmember Vidal Rodriguez.
One of the issues of the homeless in downtown is Bethany House. No matter what we do or we try to do, they're always going to exist because that's where they're given help. So we could provide all those services, but that doesn't mean that they're going to want to leave. They're humans. They're independent in their own decisions and mind. So with that said, I am in support of actually helping downtown, fixing downtown, giving it another vibrant look at it for the people of the area. As we repeat ourselves, Southeast Laredo has a sports complex. North Laredo has the Sames Auto Arena, has the tennis courts. North Central Laredo has a mall. You have the main events, the restaurants in that area. But downtown, little by little, has been robbed of its value, robbed of its betterment for its area, its quality of life. So when it comes down to this and asking and saying, you know what, we're supposed to wait for elections to be over. When we're elected by the people, we're elected to the last single day that we stand. If that's the case, then half of this council shouldn't be putting items on the agenda, because all of you are for re-election, or half of you are going to be gone, if I'm not mistaken. So then that's not the case. The people are elected, represented till the last day. It must be done like that, and we have to respect each and every single person's idea for their vision for the district, because they are the voice of their people.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All the housing that's been built downtown at just exorbitant multi-million-dollar cost, per unit, and break it all down. I mean, that serves a purpose for purposes of those that are enrolled in the housing.
Mayor, we can't hear Councilmember Algo. I'm not sure.
They can hear.
I'm not sure I want to, but I can't hear him.
You asked for it. So the point that I'm trying to make is that with regard to the housing that's been built downtown, that housing is gone to serve the purpose of housing the elderly, which is much needed. And that's a very different population from the homeless population. The most recent, Marta Narvaez City Hall Annex, Temple to Cañoneras, that new facility is not serving the homeless population either. And neither Dr. Martinez nor Councilmember Bali addressed, okay, so then what do you do? Like, what is your game plan for dealing with the homeless population? I heard there was some platitudes with regard to, oh yeah, we got to do our part or whatever, but nothing meaningful, like as far as an outdoor campus and a strategy that involves, redirecting the homeless population away from the doorsteps of the downtown merchants. The reality is, as much as those lawyers that you referenced, Mr. Bali, and other neighbors, as much as they would want the current downtown homeless camp to change from the library to somewhere else, that still doesn't fix the homeless problem. The homeless problem is going to require, a multidisciplinary approach. It's going to require an outdoor campus. It's going to require to do something other than just kicking that can down the road. And so, we're not advocating the removal of these resources to somewhere else. I mean, these resources, the Civic Center, which is a city resource, was sold. It's not a downtown resource. It is a City of Laredo resource. That resource can I suppose travel wherever the voters feel that it should. But compacting everybody into a tight plaza and the tight plaza theater in times of COVID is not going to address the homelessness in District 8. Building a children's museum or a dooseum where kids are touching everything and it's very interactive and it's great. I mean, pre-COVID, yeah, it'd be awesome, but until you address the homelessness, again, nobody's going to want to come downtown and walk around and spend money and dodge people that are shooting up or are going to the bathroom in the parks or on the corners or taking baths in the fountains. And so, this is not an argument about, taking resources from one area and sending them up north. Nice try. None of you all addressed the homeless issue on how do we deal with that using the limited resources that we have available to us right now. And that's why this item merits, being vetoed and us reconsidering what we should do with these monies.
Mayor, before I call on you, Doctor, let me just say a few words also.
We don't have a lot of time. But remember, when we're talking about the population.
Yeah, hold on, Doctor. I'll call on you in a minute or so.
Sorry, sir. I thought you recognized me. I apologize.
No, and it's not. The question is the best use application of these funds, and again, I got nothing against the Bruni Plaza library and of course the Plaza Theater as well. But considering these times with the pandemic upon us and of course the homelessness situation, why can't we incentivize a grocery store, a supermarket? Some time back, we had a plan connecting the outlet shops with the hotel, those corridors there, incentivizing, targeting some of these funds toward those small businesses that need all the help and all the assistance that they can get. Yes, sir.
I think we keep hearing the same thing over and over, and I guess we should refer to Mr. Benavides to tell us what can we use this money for?
Yeah, no, specifically, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
Under the local government code, the funds from the sale or the proceeds of the sale of the convention center must be used for something in kind that was intended for the purpose of the convention center, i.e. another convention center or a sporting event or trade shows or something like that. So the limit of how you can use the proceeds of the sale of the convention center is governed by the local government code.
So we can't even do a theater or a children's museum.
The children, what the project is designated for, that's something that can be done because it's part of one of those events.
Didn't sound like it. Children's museum is a sporting event?
No, I mean trade shows, sporting events, special events. It's something similar to what you would be able to do.
How does children's museum fit within that definition?
Well, it's not just. I mean, it's. I think it's one of those where it's talking about the Bruni Plaza and the library and something like that. So we just have to go back and look. Yes, go ahead.
So if I just jump in to answer probably the questions that's being asked right now, I think the legal interpretation that usually is made by not only Ms. Hale, but I believe our bond counsel. It's been asked before, and these two projects have embedded the bond counsel to see if they're qualified. So not only the city attorney's office, but the bond counsel as well. So we went over that first. So just legally speaking, it does fall within that range.
And that was known before it was ever brought to council, just so you guys know.
Now, the other piece where it's the council priority to do this project now or the wishes, that's a whole other story. I just want to put the legal context in place and say we've gone through that road, check that box off. But that's how long that can bring this at this point.
for that project. If you're going to reuse it for something else, I mean, we just need to go back and look at what the intended purpose of the convention center was, look at the definitions, and maybe get another opinion also from.
Well, let me ask you this: if you build a conference center, a convention center downtown Laredo, and there's all these homeless people pooping and peeing in the streets all around where you want to have the conference center, and you want to address that public health issue, can you do something with those monies so that you can humanely address that issue? That way you don't have all the defecating and the drug use, et cetera, where you want to do your downtown conference center.
But I don't believe that you can use it for something related to addressing the homeless population under health and safety reasons. But just so we know, we can go back and look for whatever reason you want to use the proceeds of the sale for. Go back and look at that, but it has to fall squarely within what the intended purpose of what the sale of the convention center was. Yes, sir, Mr. Reed.
Yes, Mr. Reed.
When we got the Bethany request of the health department as well, people went forward to see your funding through that opportunity. So again, trying to give you as much on your plate to look at. Ms. Martinez is actually there on the screen and able to see if there's funds available to start addressing that homelessness issue at the same time, if that's what the council still wishes.
Ms. Martinez, please.
I'm sorry, I was having trouble listening to the question, but can you repeat it again?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Mayor. So it was just gonna be, Tina, if you can explain if there's any funding opportunities that we could use to start to address the homelessness, and especially maybe through a partnership with Bethany or Salvation Army, one of those, and with what they're looking at today with a facility or renovations or that type. What are there funds available?
Of course, sorry about that. Tina Martinez, Community Development Director. So yes, we've been having weekly meetings with our homeless stakeholders and our nonprofits. And of course, due to COVID and the restrictions that have been placed in all these shelters and their capacity to go out and do outreach, we have seen, the issues that were discussed this evening. But in light of that, we've been opening the discussion of what to do next. How do we respond to COVID? And of course, with these funds that we've been getting through HUD, through the Housing and Urban Development Fund, we have gotten COVID for CDBG, but but has to be tied to prevent, prepare, and respond. So in light of that, I have spoken to Bethany House. They have actually submitted an initial proposal last week. They haven't identified the area yet, but there is a potential for a big location to be donated to them. And they're asking for assistance for the rehab and possibly operations of an expansion to their current facility that right now, of course, as we see, cannot accommodate all the issues that we're having with our homeless population. So we definitely have community development block grant funds for COVID in the excess of about $2 million. And then we do have some operation funds through another grant, is Emergency Solutions Grant, COVID response also, and we have another $1 million for them to operate the facilities. Of course, there's limitations and restrictions to both these funds, so we are working with Bethany. We will be working with Bethany House to ensure that they meet the requirements of our funds.
And additionally, Mayor, if I may, there's more funds. There's $5 billion in funds that the governor has not appropriated yet, and in that is going to be money for homeless that I've been told. And so, again, we work on problems concurrently. We don't work on problems one at a time. And furthermore, to say that we haven't tried to do anything, the detox center and the triage of people in downtown to get them off of drugs and get them the proper psychiatric care that they need is the first step in starting to clean up downtown. If we don't control the drug population and psychiatric problems that we have with that detox center and rapid response teams, we will never solve that problem. And so I do think that there is funding available right now in order to do this, and there's going to be more funds through the CARES Act money that the governor is holding on to. So again, we work on these things concurrently, not one and then the other. We invest in downtown and we take care of the population that needs our help.
Mayor, if I may.
I just have a question.
Yes. Who's this? Yeah, Councilmember. Yeah, Rudy, go ahead, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
real quick, Mayor, real quick. Now that and I know we've been talking about the homeless. We've been tackling the homeless issue with this item. Why don't we just bring it up, add it to the legislative session to see if we can prioritize some money for that? Robert, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the question.
Which Robert?
Mr.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, we would definitely.
Mr. Eads, did you copy?
Yes.
Yes, sir, I did. Yes, and we would be able to do that through a legislative process as well, without a doubt.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Based on what we heard also from council, it doesn't seem clear to me that the library and the Plaza Theater fit squarely into that peg of what the convention center monies are supposed to be designated for.
But we already heard that on council is saying yes. Our previous city attorney, who's now an assistant city manager, is saying yes. Our new city attorney is saying yes. I mean, you want to go through what, 10 until you get a no?
Yes, council member. Yes, I mean, it is a little, there are certain things that it's covering for. And I think that based on everything that I read from what occurred previously, because I did review of what occurred before and the opinions given for the purpose of the designation of this particular item, that it is covered within the spirit of the intended I guess, financing of the convention center. And therefore, that's what governs when you sell the convention center, you have to use it for money that is of similar type of purpose. And I think that's why they came from that.
Did they provide you a legal opinion?
Not me. I think they provided this council. Was it Mr. Eads, or who did they provide?
Like a written legal opinion.
Do you remember if Noel provided?
It was in the last 5 minutes before council finished the meeting. I don't remember.
But ma'am, there's always groundwork that's done months before. And we did groundwork weeks and weeks and weeks before it was presented. This has been an ongoing discussion between the council member of the district and the management team. Much like, I'm sure you have discussions with management team.
Irrespective of these two projects, the question that still lingers, at least from some community members, and I think the chamber would want to have more input, is on the conference center. Should we reserve at least some funds, I'm not saying all the funds, but some funds to apply to a conference center, and that conference center would certainly qualify for that somewhere. Unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, some plans were made for the downtown area, but they struck it down. So that's the only question that I would bring up. And
can I answer that quickly?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Very quickly. I mean, the problem with that is that, and I've heard it repeated by several council members, is if we want to get back into a conference center, not only do the voters turn it down, but we're talking about, a $40 million project. We don't have that kind of money. Here we're talking about doing a project without bonding and having basically a small center for conferences and small performances, something much smaller, but that we have money for. We've been talked a lot about getting away from bonding, and y'all are kind of talking again about trying to get back into bonding, and I think we can accomplish so much.
But if you recall, Councilmember Bali, we were also seeking for partnership. A partner, a hotel.
To
come in and help out. So
and I think they're working on
I agree, but in addition to the bonds, there was bonds as well.
There could not. It depends on the arrangement, and
sure.
And again, I asked the question: are we foregoing? Are we just just eliminating this conference center?
I don't think so, Mayor. I think, in fact, Commissioner Garcia is currently working. Now, it's a little slow, so I don't want to, spill the beans, but I think Councilmember Mercurio Martinez is aware of one potential conference center, and there's another potential person who's looking for a conference center. So there are active negotiations right now with multiple, at least two that I know of, conference centers. One would be on I-35, and actually I think two are on I-35. And so I don't think we're abandoning the thought of a conference center. It's just that in order to facilitate and to actually build a conference center, you're talking about a multi-million dollar project. You're not talking about, $2 million or $3 million. You're talking about $20 million, and you have to have a corporate citizen that wants to jump in and also put $10 million or $12 million into the project. So, and then you're talking about a management company on top of that that's going to have to run that conference center. And so
the point, doctor, is we need money, and be it 2 million, 8 million, we need to get money, and that's the question that I've heard from the community. So they need input. I personally want the community, the business community, to provide that kind of input. And maybe there's someone out there that is willing to partner up with the city on a conference center. That's it is.
And there are multiple people that are willing to partner right now, but you can't guarantee that that's going to happen. There are multiple people that are willing to partner up with the city right now. I don't know if Mr. Garcia is on, but he can tell you that there are several people. I think it's early in the negotiations, but there are several.
Save this money for that.
Yeah, and the point being is obviously there's less of a chance of us getting into a conference center. We would put us if we have at least some
some seed money. Yeah,
some seed money to at least incentivize it to bring their attention.
Those are actually 380 agreements, Mayor, that are being worked out. Sales tax and ad valorem tax agreements, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, but the point is we need time, and I'm not saying maybe I'm willing to give in maybe on the plaza and maybe hold back on the library for the time being and see what the business community wants to do.
We got 12 minutes, Mayor. Sorry, sir.
If I may,
hold on.
I recall having a proposal also for a private-public partnership with the Plaza Theater, so let's look at that also. And if we have these people interested in a convention center, and then we spend all the money here, then we're not going to have anything for seed money. I think that there is already a library, and we could be very, save a lot of taxes if we retrofit that and make it huge remodeling. But there will still be some money left over so that the people of District 8 can have the library updated, of course, but save some money also for a civic center, and then look into the private-public partnerships that we're talking about, either with the theater or with the civic center.
Mr. Mayor, also, I keep hearing, I keep hearing from the folks at Laredo College, hey, we've offered the use of our library over and over again, and nobody ever takes us up on an MOU. We've offered the use of our tennis courts, our swimming pools, our parking area over and over again, and nobody ever, tennis courts. The city just ignores us, and we're right there, we're front and center. It just seems like in their space there. I mean, they've got the Lamar Bruni Vergara, they've got the Environmental Center. They've had other museums. The first original children's museum was there at Laredo College, and the fact that we're just blowing them off, ignoring them, they're telling us, hey, we'll supply the water, the electricity. Y'all just help us out with a little bit of manpower, and we got it covered. We've got thousands of square feet that are not being used, that are climate controlled, and then here we are, stumbling over ourselves to spend more money here as much as we can, right? It's all, everything must go like it's a fire sale or something. And this is not the time for a fire sale. This is the time to be prudent. And there's these other matters that require our attention.
Yeah, let me ask you, we're running out of time. Councilmember Bali, would you be willing just to kind of park this until January and we can pick up the discussion? I kind of like
look, Mayor, sorry, Mayor, look, I saw the way you put this on the item, and you put it as a political item, and that you're wanting to do this after elections, and kind of odd to word it that way, given that half the council here is up for reelection. But I mean, we all know that nobody's job is safe, and I understand that. I don't like the way you all put it on the agenda. I don't think that was appropriate. But given that thought, these are non-financial items. So whether I'm here or someone else is here in January, it's still ongoing. There's still time to put the brakes on this. And so I don't see what the need is to veto this. Let management work. Let management do their job. Keep working through it. And whoever's here in January will either continue with it or they won't. So I mean, there's no need to put the brakes on it if that's the concern, because it really seems you all are talking about homelessness, but in the end, it sounds like what you all are really talking about is let's wait to see who's on city council, because you put that in the agenda item, and so whoever's here is going to still be able to work on this one way or another. So I don't see why you should veto it, but if you're going to veto it, we got 8 minutes. Why don't you veto it so I can make a motion to override, and we can just do them back to back right now with no further discussion, because we've discussed this enough.
Okay, no, and I agree too. Thank you, Councilmember Valle. Yeah, and again, my concern now is the conference center. Having funds to apply, and with one more input from the business committee. And by that, I would so veto then this action.
Okay, Mayor, and I'll make a motion to override the veto.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, the second by Dr. Marco Martinez.
Call for the question.
All those in favor say aye.
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 1, 2, 3,
Aye.
4. Who else?
Rudy. Councilmember.
There are 5? Okay. 5, okay. Yeah, my veto is overridden. Thank you. Now we go up.
Motion
to the next item.
A motion to bring up item
I had already made a motion.
1B1.
Guys, I had already made a motion to bring up my items to follow, please.
Yeah, hold on. If you don't mind, the canvassing is
paramount.
It'll take me 2 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but then right after yours.
Item D1, it'll only take a minute.
After Martes.
After Martes, okay.
Yeah, one.
Go ahead.
Guys, this is discussion with possible action on the passage of an ordinance that would prohibit multifamily or commercial customers from potentially violating state or federal laws by charging tenants a monthly stormwater fee. So just quickly, the PUC does not regulate stormwater or trash collection. And there are apartment complexes that are charging 2 or 3 times more than what the city charges them in addition to an administrative fee. What I'm trying to during this COVID time and just to follow, I don't mind if people do an administrative fee, but what they're doing is they're hiding the amount that we charge. Each tenant pays we charge the company $6 per unit, and they're charging 10, 12 or more per unit. And so I'm trying to avoid that. So my motion would be to bring back an ordinance that would prohibit companies from doing that.
There's a motion, a second by Councilmember Vidal Rodriguez. Discussion? Not heard, all those in favor say aye. Motion carries. Go ahead.
The second one is just, this is a discussion with possible action on amending 2456 of the Laredo Land Development Code to allow expenditures from the Parkland Improvement Fund to be used for purposes reasonably related to the park. So this is because, this just comes quickly because I've had 2 young people that have been recently hit while riding a bicycle or through a park. One was coming from. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Second. Yes, that's your motion?
Yeah, my motion is to do that and so for reasonable. And then also one other thing, I'd like to add to the land development code that speed reduction devices are added adjacent to parks in residential neighborhoods. that be brought back to us as an ordinance. That's the second part, because I think that's important. And it's deadly, to be honest with you.
And seconded by Vidal Rodriguez, discussion. Not heard all those in favor say aye.
Right.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Motion to bring IB1.
Second.
IB1, and seconded by Councilmember Vidal Rodriguez. Discussion, not heard, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Not heard, motion carries. Go ahead.
Motion, discussion with possible action to set a date for the canvassing of the votes and set an election date in case of a runoff election and any other matters incident there too. Mayor, got an election amongst us, and tomorrow is election day. And we implore that everybody that is within earshot of me and this council, that they go out, if they haven't voted early, to go out tomorrow, election day. Anyway, so,
Mayor, City Council, Jose Valdez Jr. for the City Secretary for the City of Laredo. Before you have a calendar, and the days officially that one can canvass the vote would be through the 6th through the 17th. And we're recommending the 9th if council can meet, so we can canvass the vote from the election. If that's good, if not.
Second.
Okay, there's motion and second discussion.
And we're sure we're gonna have all the votes are gonna be.
Well, we should. That's why I didn't want to do it on the 6th.
That's what by now, 6 is the first day.
Yeah. But talking to Mr. Diaz, we want to make sure that everything.
So we got room there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 9th?
The 9th, that's what we're recommending.
Okay.
The runoff?
Motion and second discussion. Those in favor say aye.
A
Any
noon
opposed?
meeting, is that correct?
Huh?
A noon meeting
Yes.
to canvass the vote?
It could be.
We'll have a nooner.
Okay.
Okay, and then the runoff is,
Motion carries. Go ahead.
thank you, Mayor. Then the runoff, the potential canvassing on the 9th, the first day that we could hold a runoff election would be the 29th of November through January the 1st. And so it would be 1 week, normally in a runoff, unless council wants to change that, then we.
Like 1 week, rest a weekend, or?
Yeah, it'd be 1 week and then rest the weekend.
They still have to print ballots.
What about the pandemic and all that?
Well, we're gonna have to put that aside.
What do you mean?
I mean, don't focus.
Wait. So how many days? How many days is there for early voting? 5. So you have 5 days of early voting. They rest a weekend, and then another 5 days, and then the election's on a Saturday.
No. 5 days, and you can rest the week, and then you can.
Oh, and then election day like on a Tuesday type of thing.
A 1 week special election.
We've always. I mean, my runoff was 1 week.
It's always been a week.
It's always been a week for
The
runoffs.
council can
Maybe
extend
it
it.
just felt longer when you're the candidate.
It's like 3 weeks.
We have 2 minutes.
Let's do 2 weeks because of the pandemic.
That
Yeah.
means it's gonna cost us more.
Well, it'll cost more, but I mean, I'd rather, if you could select the date that you're looking at,
And
that
we
way we
have
can
to
talk
wait
to
at
LC, because Laredo College also has to be involved in this. And so we can let them know this is the date.
Mayor,
I'll make a motion that
If I-
election will be
Hold on.
December the 12th,
Election day, December the
Second.
12th.
Second.
and then work backwards.
Yeah,
You want
and
that
we'll
one
figure that
second.
out. And you want 2 weeks of early voting, correct?
Well, no, I mean, let's vote on the election day first, and then we'll
Okay.
And then you work backwards
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, there's a motion and second for the.
for election day on the 12th.
for the 12th,
Well-
December 12th.
Yeah, Councilmember Mercurio Martinez seconded discussion. Unheard, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Unheard, motion carries.
Then, motion to bring back a cost analysis for a 2-week, early voting period and a 1-week early voting period, the day we canvass.
The day, okay.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unheard, motion carries. Thank you.
Motion to, table all items non-discussed to the next meeting.
Thank you. Seconded.
And motion to approve Laredo College in their, runoff elections.
As amended.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unheard, motion carries.
Motion to
Thank you, ladies and
adjourn.
gentlemen. Motion to adjourn. All those in